Welcome to the freakeasy, geeks. How sweet. Fresh geeks. I'm your co-host now, Johnny. Hey, Phantom Dan. No podcasting in the hallways.
I'm so scared.
So delighted.
Guys, welcome back to the Freakeasy spin-off podcast of the Geek Easy.
That was it?
I
was hoping you'd go through all of his one-liners and
just
our
it.
intro would be
Just
2.5 hours.
Every one-liner. That was amazing.
Oh, man. I am your host, Scarin' Jaren. I'm joined, as always, by Phantom Dan. And we are featuring, co-starring, plain old Jonathan.
Nothing rhymes with Jonathan.
Smonathan. Bronathan. Look, lots of things rhyme with Jonathan.
Those are made-up words.
Chronathan. See?
You got it, dude.
I know.
Let's say Chronathan almost sounds like it should be a franchise we'll be reviewing at some point.
I hope it's as good as the Ghoulies.
It couldn't not be.
So last week I had to start off the podcast by warning everybody that I was not going to be able to be a very partial moderator, commenter, whatever, because I hated the Ghoulies so much.
Yeah.
This week I have to start off by warning everybody that I'm not going to be able to be very partial because this is my jam.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. This is probably the reason I'm a horror guy.
Oh, okay.
It is what I believe to be the most solid, complete, consistent franchise in horror, if not movies. Guys, we're talking Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ooh, I am so excited.
I am shocked.
So
I
excited.
had no idea.
You had no idea?
He gave it away at the opening. That's
That's
when
true.
I figured it out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, all our fans will have had it given away when they click on the podcast.
Yeah, that's true. They saw the title.
Yeah.
Well, you left us with that cliffhanger last week.
Yeah, no.
So that's the last thing I heard.
Okay. I don't know. Because you watched all the movies.
Amazing.
That was just a coincidence.
You got me, John. You got me. Man, guys, so Nightmare on Elm Street, 9 movies. 9? 8? 9.
9 if you count the one we didn't rewatch, because we've already covered Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason. Yeah,
That's right. Which I count, but we did not rewatch it.
Yeah.
We should have.
I'm sure it can come up from time to time.
That movie's way better than the remake.
And 2.
And 2.
and 2.
That
Yeah,
movie is so
right?
much better than
Woo.
2.
Whoa. We'll get to that.
So I always like to start out the Freak Easy by talking about our memories of the franchise. And when I said already that, kind of the nightmares are probably the reason that I'm like a horror guy. These were the ones, like definitely the first one I remember finding on USA Up All Night at a slumber party and being like, ooh, this is something I can't watch at home. We're going to watch every minute of this.
Was it one of the Joe Bob Briggs Up All Nights or one of the Rhonda Shears Up All Nights?
Rhonda Shears.
Okay.
Because after it, I remember specifically was Attack of the Killer Bimbos.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And then something called Razorback, which I think was bad, but I've never gone back.
Is that about a pig?
I think so.
Okay.
I think like a giant pig.
Okay.
That they fight with a bobcat at the end.
All right. Bobcat versus Razorback.
Sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've never gone back and
That
watched
sounds
it.
Ghoulies good.
Yeah, it sounds like it was ahead of its time, honestly. Sounds like something Sci-Fi Channel would make today.
I also don't know if we finished that one or slept through half of it because that would have been pretty late. But I definitely remember catching some of one of the nightmares, and I want to say it was Dream Warriors. We were too young to be watching it probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at least it was one of the really good ones.
And then, at least it was one of the really good ones.
Which just means not two.
Right. And then it just kind of it was definitely the nightmares were a standard go-to because my friend was like, "Oh, we could watch these anytime," and I'm like, "Well, anytime I'm sleeping here."
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so then that's what we did for a while. And as I was not scared of Freddy, then I was not necessarily scared of any other horror movie.
Sure.
So,
sure.
And I don't know.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Freddy totally does feel like the intro to the slasher films or intro to the horror films for a kid.
Yeah.
Especially people of our age who grew up in this era, because like we talked about like the popularity of Jason and stuff when we were going over Friday the 13th, but man, Freddy Kreuger was everywhere. Like, it didn't matter how old you were. The fact that you had probably never even seen these movies, right. Every kid on the playground knew who Freddy Kreuger was.
Yep.
Every kid at Halloween wanted one of those Freddy Kreuger gloves with the knives on it. I swear to God, so many kids were running around the neighborhood at Halloween back when like neighborhoods would be full of kids on Halloween, and half of them kids would have that stupid glove on.
Right.
Seriously, because like
sure.
everybody wanted that thing.
I want one now.
I mean, right? I know they just look like fun to play with for sure. But that also kind of brings me to the next point. Like, these movies clearly not made for kids, but they clearly knew that kids were into this sort of thing, because we saw Freddy Kreuger in the toy aisles even. Like, there wasn't like dedicated action figures, but I specifically remember, and I just had to look them up to find them, but I specifically remember being in the toy aisles and seeing these little like these ball squirters that turns out were called Freddy Spitballs. And they look like
those.
Freddy Kreuger faces, and like they're the kind of toys where you'd fill them with water and then they'd spit water out at you. But like things like that were in the toy aisle being sold to kids. Like, yeah, Freddy Kreuger had some wide appeal to everybody back then. So I could totally see that being everybody's intro to the horror movies.
Weird when you think of the background of the character.
Yeah.
And
kidding. Like when you really start to think about that, like, oh yeah, this guy's technically a child molester / child killer, but here's all these kids who love Freddy
but the
Kreuger.
Kids love him.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Well, see, I remember him showing up everywhere. You know, like he would host video segments on MTV. He had, he would show up on up all night stuff.
Sure.
Man. You know who was not shy about riding that one claim to fame?
Dude.
Robert Englund.
No joke, dude. He knew.
And more power to him. That's awesome.
He
That's
knew.
not, but like that dude knew he had a niche and would go anywhere with it.
Well, and that's another thing about Freddy, though, too. We've seen, and we can talk about this. I'm sure this is going to come up, especially when we're talking about the remake. But like, we've talked about in the Jason episode how like Kane Hodder kind of became known as the guy playing Jason, but Jason's a guy behind a mask.
Right.
He also doesn't really have much of a personality. Freddy Kreuger is like Robert Englund injected Freddy Kreuger with a personality to the point that like it's hard to separate those two.
Yeah.
Like you have to have Robert Englund as Freddy Kreuger, otherwise it doesn't feel like Freddy Kreuger anymore.
I would like to note, not in defense, because I know you're not offending by any means, but I will still say it as we talked about in that Friday the 13th episode, it is still super impressive that you could tell when Kane Hodder was playing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like
I'm
he
not
still
taking that
he
away
definitely
at all.
brought something to it, but it is not the same.
Yes.
Like Freddy is all personality, and that grows and evolves as it goes along, but it's all Robert Englund all the time.
Well, and even though he's like caked under makeup, like like his features and everything about him kind of like just makes that character.
Yeah.
The look of the character. It's all Robert Englund. It's the actor.
Yeah.
Well, and he was like a classically trained actor too, and so he's not just. It's not like they just happened to luck into him and he was like, oh, I'm a good Freddy. I'll just be Freddy. Like he came to it with method and was like, I'm gonna make this a thing.
Yep.
And he made it a thing.
Yep.
I think before the second one, they thought, because after the first one he knew, and so when they came to him for the second one, he was like, nah, I need all this. I need more money. I need a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm your star. And they were like, you're a guy in a mask. It's a makeup. You're a guy in makeup. And they tried to have somebody else just do it, and like right away they were like, we shot with this guy 3 hours, and we called Robert Englund to give him what he wanted.
Yeah. Well, was it Eric Stoltz? That'd be awesome.
I think so.
That should be a lesson to classically trained actors also, or whatever, and I know we have a ton of them listening. right now. But man, you're never too big for a role, because that's something that a lot of guys who have that pedigree could have scoffed at the idea of this. But instead, if you own it and have fun with it, you can be an icon forever. Right. You know, so.
All right, we ready to jump into these things,
Jumping
man?
right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right,
I'm ready.
do it. Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984 was the first one. So, you know,
I can't believe it was that late.
I was just going to say, you know, it really came in. It probably came in at a time where it seemed like the slasher thing was getting ready to wrap up. Because, I mean, you know, it had been going since the late 70s already.
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, how many Fridays do we already have under our belt by this point? Because those started at the end of the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
79 was the first
I
one,
think
and they
so.
were every year, so we had at least we had a year and skipped one, so I think we had 3 or 4 by then.
Okay.
We had at least 2, 3, 2.5 of the Halloweens by then, I think.
So that's crazy.
Then,
yeah. So this really did come in a little bit later, but man, it came in swinging.
It came in and took over.
Over.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Freddy transcended and like transcended immediately, and I think it had a lot to do because, you know, it's got the dream demon thing, and it came in and was different. You know, it wasn't just this. You know, it wasn't just the Springwood slasher running around with a glove gimmick. You know, which I feel like it easily could have been. That
Sure.
It's been like, you know, oh, what if we got this guy? He's got knives for fingers. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but Wes Craven had a vision and took it a completely different way, brought in supernatural elements with the slasher elements.
Yeah.
It's great. It's fantastic.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
So Wes Craven had already done The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left when he did this one. So he was, you know, he talks about Last House on the Left. You know, he had been working with somebody who, in like a, you know, production assistant type role, and they made a couple movies, and then they were like, hey, do you want to write something? And he was like, sure. He was like, well, if you write something scary, I know we can sell it. And so he, in like a weekend, wrote Last House on the Left, and then they let him direct it.
Oh, wow.
Then he wanted to move away from horror and tried to write some other stuff, and nobody would get behind him to do other stuff. And so then finally somebody was like, look, they want more horror from you. If you do something else horror, we'll get you some money and we'll get it made. So then he wrote The Hills Have Eyes and made that. Then it was time. Then I guess he was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm the horror guy now.
Yeah.
And then he made Nightmare, and then he was the horror guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, and it's different vibes too. Like The Hills Have Eyes is such like a creepier kind of movie than the Nightmares. Well, I guess than the way the Nightmares turned out to be. I guess they didn't start out super goofy.
Right.
But still, like even the first one's got personality and one-liners. And,
it definitely evolves from there, but it starts at a base.
But exactly.
And I would say better pacing than any other horror movie.
Yeah.
Any other horror movie.
Oh, we talked about that while we were watching them. Like one of the things, especially after just coming off the Ghoulies, and I don't want to just keep jumping back to that, but like we've been watching all these horror movies for the last few weeks again, and the thing that we kind of noticed right away that you pointed out immediately is that like these movies don't waste any time just getting into it. Like they jump straight into the stuff that you want to see, and then the pacing from there never like slows down. It never gets boring. It never lags. It's like it's just really well paced.
I want to hug every one of these movies.
Yeah.
For not being every movie I've seen for the last 10 years.
Right. I mean, like they don't, so many horror movies or movies in general follow that terrible trope where the thing that you want to see doesn't happen until the last 15 minutes of the movie. You know, they spend the entire movie building up to the thing you want to see, and then if it's not done well, it just fizzles out and it's terrible at the
Yeah.
end. But the Freddy movies are not like that at all.
Yeah.
Like they just jump straight into
Well,
it.
and they are all 89, 95, 92. Like,
Yeah.
they are all right in that range, and it is, even with the formula they have, they're so fast-paced that
Yeah.
it never gets old.
Yeah,
Even if you're
exactly.
watching them back to back to back, there's always something happening in
Yeah.
these movies, you know?
Yeah.
And it just keeps you right in tune with it, and then, like you said, they don't build and build and build and keep it from you, and then give you a few minutes at the end to satisfy you, and then, the movie's over 2 hours later. They give you a little bit of lead up, and then they just start hitting you with action, 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 and then it's done and the credits are rolling.
Right,
And you're just
yeah.
satisfied the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we start with Nightmare on Elm Street, and we open with Tina having a nightmare, and we see Freddy right away. We see the claws, we see him kind of chasing her. The creepy goat in the scary hallway. Like we get, like, they really give you the gist of this movie like right away.
Right.
And I love, and then we meet Tina's friends, and Tina's friends are Nancy and Glenn and Rod. Thank you. I've seen this movie 1,000 times, but blanked on that, of course. Rod. And the thing I also noticed about these movies is that they don't really set you up to hate anybody and want to see him get killed. Like in the Fridays, which is probably the best, like the Fridays and the Halloweens, which is probably like the best comparison.
Yeah.
They totally give you like, 2 or 3 sympathetic characters, and then 3 or 4 people that you just can't wait to see split
Yes.
open like a ripe
Yep.
melon,
Yep.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So
There's always a gaggle of Brads.
yeah, gaggle of Brads, yes.
Gaggle of Brads.
So even this one, they kind of give you Rod, and you get the sense that Rod's a jerk right away, but not the same way like Teddy's a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And even when they get to when Rod gets into trouble, you start to feel for him because he hasn't just been set up as like a total jerk, and he doesn't have any more idea what's going on than anybody else.
Right. Yeah, that was another thing that we did kind of keep tabs on while we were going through these movies, because you had at one point brought up saying, well, we always do that question of who we were looking forward to seeing die, but there's not really anybody that fits that bill in these
Yeah,
movies.
there's really not.
And really, we didn't see that until the remake, which
Right.
is really says kind of something about the remake, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
So I also love in the first one, Tina. We start off kind of with Tina, and they totally pull a Hitchcock. And Tina, because you watch the beginning of that movie, and Tina is definitely the heroine, and she's kind of the perspective character. She's the one who's trying to figure out what's going on and warn everybody about Freddy, and she's the one having nightmares, and then she is the first one that Freddy murders horribly. and then the story switches, and it switches to Nancy, and Nancy becomes the heroine. And Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp, might be the best horror heroine.
She's awesome.
She's got to be.
I mean, they definitely
up there. She's got to be up there.
and they definitely set her up as the one that you just want to keep seeing too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
she gets brought back so many times, and it's always exciting to see her again.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Well, this franchise has a couple of great ones.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Glenn, Nancy's boyfriend, played by the debut star Johnny Depp.
I forgot his name was Glenn because I just listed him as Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, I always think it's a funny story. Johnny Depp actually did not want to be an actor. He was in L.A.
He went to be a waiter.
Yes.
I'm gonna move to LA and be a waiter. That's
No,
my dream.
actually, he had a band, and he was trying to get his band going.
Oh, okay.
And his band was, I assume,
I bet
terrible.
they were really good.
I assume they were terrible.
Probably really good.
Because they couldn't get
my
any
guess.
gigs. But he had made some friends, and they were like, hey, man, you could probably score some easy gigs and make a little extra money while you're trying to get this band thing going. And then he did Nightmare on Elm Street, his very first thing.
He was like savvy.
So, yes. So of course Freddy picks off Rod, then picks off Glenn. The other thing about this movie, this one more so than the rest, like the first 2 kills are easily explainable. You know, so nobody's going to believe them. You know, like we see we see later.
Not if you saw it, but
well, yeah. I mean, not if you saw it. No, but I mean, like
but when the cops show up
when
later,
the cops
and,
when you're trying to tell the adults about this man in your dream, and clearly Rod is the one who killed Tina, and clearly Rod hung himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's not until we get to Glenn, who is actually the last kill in the movie, who blood volcanoes into his bed.
Yeah.
Like before anybody's going, well, now that just ain't natural.
Right. It's cool though. That's really neat, and it is something that, like, you know, it works really well, especially for the first one before things get too bananas, because you know Freddy's kills get a little more outlandish as the series goes on.
Yes.
But I really like that aspect of it, because you know then you've got you know these teenagers running around being like, you don't understand, there's this guy in our dreams. I mean, like, that just makes you sound extra crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
When clearly that kid just hung himself in prison
Yeah.
because he didn't want to be in prison. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't know. I really like that aspect of it.
For sure.
I don't want to glaze past that Tina kill too quick either, though, because that's probably the most intense of the series.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's such a great setup, and I mean that scene is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, and she's just so violently getting shaken around that room, and Rod's just sitting there watching her, not knowing what's going on, and she's just getting sliced up, and like, I mean,
she's
again,
sliding up the wall, and crawling
drug
across
around,
the ceiling,
spun around, moving around, just dangling there or
Yeah.
whatever else, and just blood flying.
Yeah.
And it is nuts, and it really does set you up. Like you open up in that movie, and they've given you all these creepy vibes, and they're kind of setting her up as this heroine, as the heroine, like you said, and then they are just demolishing her.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like right there, and as the audience, you don't even know what's going on, and you just sort of start to realize what this movie really is and can be, and just how much fun it is to watch, like the not the special effects, but they're
the dream sequences.
no, they're not CG. They're practical. The
practical
practical
effects,
effects on that.
Practical effects.
And what a great. And we can talk about it more when we get there. But when they kind of redo this in the remake, and it's garbage.
Yeah.
You know, and watching them in close proximity together, you really notice how big of a deal just actually filming the scene can make.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and that, you know, that's preceded by a whole great dream sequence, probably one of the best dream sequences, because that's the one where he first comes out and he stretches out he's got the stretchy arms in the alley.
Oh, that's right. He does that right away.
Yep.
I don't know why I didn't remember that was literally like one of the first things Freddy does.
Yep.
Those big stretchy arms.
Yep. He chops his fingers off and lets her just which is one of my favorite Freddy moments, because he chops his two fingers off, and then he's just like, you know, like, he just got this look on his face, like, did you see that? I can't believe it. Tina pulls they're like wrestling at one point. That's where she pulls his face off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That whole sequence is, man, kicks this whole franchise off.
Yep.
And does it the right way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And they don't pull back from the throttle for like 6 more movies.
Right. Well, a little bit the second one.
A little bit.
Well, okay. That's right. They leapfrog the second one.
They
in my mind.
leapfrogged it, yeah.
They definitely did. So after Tina dies, Nancy becomes a heroine, and she's pretty much on top of this whole Freddy thing, like, right away. That's the other thing that's interesting about Nancy. You know, so often in the slasher movies, you have any character that has a tendency to just kind of wander around, like, oh, what's going on? Why is this person dead? Why'd somebody steal my machete? Yeah. What's gonna, you know, like, where you're, you know, all this stuff where you're kind of like screaming at the screen, like, come on, you know, nobody's this dumb. And as we've talked about often, in horror, you just kind of let it go, because if they just called the cops, we don't have a movie.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
It'd be really boring.
Yeah. Or the movie is just a bunch of cops dying.
Or the movie is a bunch of cops dying. Which is
a couple of the Halloweens, isn't it?
Which is also one of my favorite movies. Yeah, and at least one of the Halloweens for sure.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I say that was my joke.
Yeah.
Is that the one where the car like just drove in and like exploded and everything too? That scene was insane. Remember that? Bringing it all back.
Bringing it all back. All right. So Nancy faces down Freddy, and she totally she sets up all those booby traps and figures out you can pull him out of his dream.
Yeah.
Right. Because she pulls his hat out at one point. And so her plan is to go in and get him and pull him out.
He has such a weird weakness.
Well, it's also even is it really a weakness?
It gets him killed like 5 times.
I mean, it gets him killed, but he also gets pulled when he pulls out. He still has his powers.
Yeah.
Like you almost feel like they should pull him out, and all of a sudden he's just like this burnt corpse. He'd just be like,
oh, it hurts so bad.
Yeah. The air burns. And he just kind of crumples and whines.
No, you're right. They pull him out, but he's and they can kill him apparently there. But yeah, he still has all his dream powers.
Except also, then sometimes they still light him on fire, and he runs upstairs and attacks the mother.
Man,
which is what happens in this.
Oh
movie.
my goodness gracious! Yeah.
That fire
because you said Johnny Depp was the last kill. I was like, no, hold on, because her mother gets killed twice too.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did forget about.
What a time for her to run out of her closet vodka.
Man. It's never a good time to run out of your closet vodka.
Yeah. I'd want to get attacked by a fire demon too if I ran out of closet vodka.
So actually, worth noting, the two names for this that made them able to sell this movie. John Saxon, who was like a long time, he was like a young up and comer when like the studio system was still in place. So John Saxon had been along. He plays Nancy's father.
Yeah. I kept looking at him and thinking of all the movies I had seen him in, and then I'd go look them up, and I realized that those were all Michael Ironside movies.
Yeah.
But like all of the movies that Michael Ironside wasn't in, like every movie that Michael Ironside wasn't in, John Saxon was in.
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So in one of the documentaries I was watching, he tells one of my favorite stories. Because he says, and he was like, they wanted me to do this movie, and it's great. I showed up, and when I was there the first time, because he's like, I worked a few days at the beginning and a few days at the end, and when I got there at the beginning, it was all these young people, working just to be making a movie, and like, hey mom, I'm making a movie, and no, he's like, no judgment, I did that when I was there age 2, and then when I came back, and they'd all been working 16-hour days for 3 months, and nobody was in a good mood, and they were all they were all pissy then, and I'm like, that's awesome. I can see that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And the mother, Nancy's mother, Ronnie Blakely, who is an Academy Award nominated actress, had like the most incredible, was like in a band with like, and friends with like John Denver, and
probably a really good band.
Nashville. Do what?
Probably a really good band.
Really good band.
I don't know. Actor bands are always great, right?
No, she. I mean, yeah. Well, but she was in the band first. Like she had a really successful band.
Oh, it was a successful band.
It was a successful band, and she was like, she had
that, John.
Yeah,
I misunderstood.
She was like a big, and then she did the movie Nashville and some other movies that she was like nominated for Academy Awards for, and then she went on after Nightmare to do all kinds of social service work and stuff like that. I was super impressed when I looked her up. So if you're interested in that at all, go look her up. Cool. I judged her in this movie because I thought she felt out of place. She just felt like I didn't feel like she was like I read, like the reason I went and looked her up was because in one of the documentaries they were like, oh yeah, Academy nominated, and I was like, really? No way, because she just felt like everybody else was in this horror movie and she came in. She was just so melodramatic, like a soap opera actress in every scene. Yeah. And I was just like, no way. Who is this lady? So I had to, yeah, she was pretty incredible, all things considered. So Nancy, in the end, defeats Freddy, turns her back on him, takes away his power, and he disappears until he hasn't. Then he sucks her mom in the door.
Because
and he's the car, and he's also the car that they drive off.
Oh yeah,
all her friends are back alive. She gets in the car and drives off.
Yep.
But he's
her
the
mom
car.
hadn't been fire tackled anymore.
And
then all hell breaks loose again.
She was going to stop drinking closet vodka or any vodka, presumably.
When that was the other thing I wanted to bring up too. Is like there's that total like Home Alone sequence.
Oh yeah,
When she sets up all the booby traps and stuff like that. Like it just played like for sure. It made me look at Home Alone in a whole new light because I've seen Nightmare on Elm Street before, but not often, and it had been a long time, so I totally wasn't expecting that at all. And then as I was going through, I was like, man. I think John Hughes might have just watched this and went, what if it was like an 8-year-old kid instead? And maybe we'll make $1 trillion.
And not a dream demon?
Yeah, not a dream demon. Criminals. The wet bandits. Got it. Write it. Okay, so that ending there.
He fell over that railing onto the stairs, and you could totally see the mattress he landed on.
Oh, yeah. Hilarious.
Well, just like when he gets set on fire and he doesn't look like Robert Englund on fire. he looks like he's got one of the Ninja Turtle suits.
Dude, yeah, he's like so fat and But that scene's insane because like that's all like got to be like one take because that dude like he gets set on fire. He like runs through the basement, runs up the stairs, gets knocked down the stairs, runs back up the stairs, all while he's on fire. Right. That's insane. It was like kudos to that guy for like doing that stunt because that had to be a long time to be on fire.
For sure, it was the longest burn to date when he did it.
Wow.
And I think I read somewhere that it's like it still stands. I don't think anybody's done longer.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah, that scene's cool.
I also love when she's running through the house and she's breaking all the windows and screaming for her dad, and that random cop's just sitting across the street like, hey, what's going on over there? Well, what's she doing?
Right, so she calls her dad, and she's like, hey, I'm going to go get this guy, and when I got him, you need to come arrest him. And he's like, sure, baby, whatever, get some sleep. And then he turns to that cop, and he's like, hey, go watch my house. And tell me if you see anything weird. And that dude's like what? And he's like, anything. Yeah. He's like, okay, I got it. And then she's like, breaks out the window and she's like, get my dad!
Yeah, she's smashing windows and screaming. He's like, I don't know if that's weird enough yet.
Yeah.
Seems pretty normal so far.
Yeah, she smashes like 3 of them before he's like, oh, maybe I ought to...
I want to go get her dad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let him know something kind of weird's going on. See if this qualifies.
So, do we want to speculate on that ending at all? Like, I know that's just thinking about it probably too much for a horror movie.
But, no, I think that's the fun of having that ending.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, like, she beats him.
Right.
You know, she's not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you anymore, and that's how I'm going to win. And then he disappears or whatever. But then we get the ending where, like, oh, all her friends are alive. Oh, maybe it was just a dream the whole time. Everybody's good. But then the car turns into the Freddy mobile. And they speed off real fast with him laughing, and that's where the movie ends. So
and his mom snatches his mom.
And then he snatches her and pulls her through the window, which is hilarious. Yes. I love that.
Best effect in the movie.
So, what's going on here? Like, is it like was the whole "I'm not afraid of you anymore" a trick? He tricked her. He set her up. This was all still part of the dream, and then he got her. Is that what we're supposed to think? Because obviously Nancy comes back, but like. Maybe they didn't know that at the time, obviously, because it was the first movie.
Well, I thought later on in retrospect, I thought everything probably happened the way it did the first time, and then her waking up and everybody being alive was like a dream.
Yes.
More.
Yes.
And so she dreamed everybody being alive, and then she dreamed being attacked again, and her mother being sucked through the window. But like that part was a dream. Really, the movie ended.
Really, the movie ended
when he disappeared. And I thought, didn't they even reference her mom being burned, like in a later movie or something?
I think so.
So that led credence to that.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
But not, who knows?
Yeah. So my theory is that Freddy can still terrorize her. So, like, she turns around and takes away his power, so he can't kill her. But he can still try to make her afraid. But... If she's not afraid, she can pull that trick every time, and he just can't kill her. So he can haunt her dreams all he wants, but he can't actually.
So she wins the day.
That's
gonna
be like hell for Freddy.
But kind of her too, right? Because that means she probably spends the next however many years still dreaming about Freddy and him not winning. But like, man, that's still gotta suck dreaming about Freddy all the time, right?
So, yes. But that's why when she comes back in 3, not to jump too far ahead, she's taking Hypnosil, which Hypnosil is the drug that makes you not dream.
Oh, hey, okay. Yeah. There we go.
I mean, if we need to skip 2 and just go right to 3.
No, we have to talk about 2.
Probably do that if we wanted to.
We're the Dream Warriors. Christmas. I'm
Hey,
setting it
when
up. I'm running into it.
hey, dude, straight up when
I'm gonna make you guys talk.
when-
I had to talk about 4 Goonies movies.
when
We're talking about
had
Revenge
to.
of Freddy.
None of us
Freddy's
forced you into
Revenge.
that except for Dan.
John, you made me watch the 4th one twice.
I did not make you. You requested that. You can. You
That was kind of on
don't you
bro.
put that evil
You're
on
the-
me,
yeah,
Jared.
You're the one that said you were going to stay because you wanted
Yeah,
to.
don't
Listen,
yeah.
You wanted to take notes on it. So.
If you had watched it before I got there, if you had stayed caught up with me and Dan, I wouldn't have even had that option.
Well, and
That's
if I
what- that's what a
and
real
if I had
friend would've
ever
done.
watched it before, I would have made sure you weren't allowed. I would have kept my door locked. But that's just not how it was. Hey, when the credits for the first Nightmare came on and that song just started blaring, I was straight up like, did John Carpenter write this song? And because you guys have seen John Carpenter movies when he does like the Big Trouble in Little China song at the end and stuff like that. That's all I could think of when that song started playing. That I had I actually went and checked to see because I was like, I could picture him just rolling in and doing this real
What was
real
the song
quick,
at the
but
end of the first Nightmare?
I don't remember what it was called or whatever, but
I
it
don't know,
just
the mu-
sounded super campy
Well, the music in all of these is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Also, there was special thanks at the end of one for one of the special thanks credits was Sam Raimi.
Because in the first one, her or Glenn is watching Evil Dead.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. I
think,
forgot about that.
Nancy's watching it when she's one time when she's trying to stay awake.
When was so I read something because I was reading the notes or whatever. What Evil Dead 2? What year was that one?
87?
87?
6 or 7.
Okay, so it wouldn't have been during this movie.
No.
So there is a bit of okay, that would have been during the Dream Warriors.
Right.
So apparently, and I know we're jumping ahead, but you were just
No, it's
talking
fine.
about this doesn't actually have anything to do with the movie, but like a fun little thing that apparently happened behind the scenes is they were filming Evil Dead 2 around the same area as Dream Warriors was being filmed.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, Sam Raimi just straight got onto the set one night after they had finished or wrapped on Dream Warriors, and he stole the Kreuger glove. And he put the Kreuger glove in the scene where Ash is in the tool shed and doing the chainsaw thing. The Kreuger glove's in there in that
Really?
scene because he stole it from the set of Dream
Oh,
Warriors.
fantastic.
And he put it in the tool shed.
Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, so that's apparently a thing that happened.
Amazing. Yeah. I love movies.
Yeah.
Tell you, man, there's nothing you can't beat guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah, right.
It's just so much fun.
So, Nightmare 2, Freddy's Revenge, is 85. So, I mean, they fart this thing out in a year because we got to capitalize on the popularity of the first one.
Yep.
And, man, did they blow it.
Mercifully, that's also how many minutes it is.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, it's a bad movie. It's a bad nightmare. It's not entertaining.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the Ghoulies 1 of Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Man.
Yeah, because it's a little more boring than the others for sure. And doesn't it also because I remember immediately being like, wow, they just kind of decided to totally throw rules out the window for this one, and
Yes.
they're just doing
Yeah.
whatever they want.
Yep.
And because I remember questioning that, going, well, that's definitely not how the rest of the franchise is. What the heck happened with 2? So
right.
yeah.
It's also the Highlander 2 of Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
So there is the in this one they sort of set the not a precedent, almost kind of a rule that the possibility, I guess, because what they kind of do is it seems like usually when the main kid Jesse, right? Yeah, Jesse, when he is dreaming, Freddy can affect the real world and murder people. And sometimes he does it by possessing Jesse.
Yes.
And sometimes he does it.
It's like there's just not a lot of separation between dream world and real world.
Yes.
It's like Freddy plays more like a wizard than a monster, but he's bad at being both in this movie.
For sure.
And it's just lame.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea, I think, to have Freddy trying to possess somebody to affect the real world. You know, because being confined to dreams could be frustrating, especially under the idea, which the idea with Freddy is always that, like, if you don't know about him, if you're not afraid of him, you know, like he has to be introduced. He can't just necessarily pick and be like, oh, I'm gonna go murder this guy now. Like there has to be some connection to him. So like the idea of Freddy being able to wanting to possess somebody to go kill in the real world feels like a thing.
Yeah.
Man, they did it really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kid, I don't want to say, I don't need to disrespect Mark Patton. He's not good in this as the actor. Robert Englund is back as Freddy, and even he is kind of doing his best with what they gave him.
Yeah.
But you still almost feel like he's still figuring it out. You know, he's figuring out that transition from like, oh, I'm going to do this scary character to like, okay, now I have to play this pop icon Freddy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. Because they're doing the possession thing. So, like, Jesse, the main character, there's a lot of scenes where, like, they're doing that, oh, was it actually him that did the kill? Or, like, sometimes he'd be wearing the glove or whatever. And, I don't know, this is kind of that thing, too, where it reminds me of Final Friday. Where it wasn't like, the Jason thing was just jumping bodies or whatever. Yeah. And it wasn't really like the Jason Voorhees. It was just like people being possessed by Jason.
Yeah.
And like,
it's not what we came for.
It's not what we came for. Yeah. We didn't come for Jesse running around killing people. We want to see Freddy being Freddy, doing Freddy things. So that's always a bit of a misguided thought process, I think. When they're like, we got this great idea, what if we do this crazy possession thing? It's just not, that is out of place for this type of movie where you've got this icon that is kind of what's selling your movies. So yeah, that's kind of how I felt here.
Well, and then like they start off with that sequence on the bus, and like it's a decent dream sequence, but then Jesse just wakes up at the end of it, and so you're like, okay, so I think nothing happened then? Yeah. And then it's like, I mean, this movie's seriously 85 minutes, and I feel like it's, like 40 before there's another kill?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. And
it definitely breaks the pacing thing we were talking about that all the other ones are so good at.
Yeah, exactly. So they made a lot of mistakes with 2, but then they figured it out pretty quick and tightened it back up for later ones, I guess, at least. And there's just a lot of weird stuff in this movie that does not work.
Well, so you kind of talked about too, like the weird blending between real life and the dream sequences, where it's hard to tell what's really happening where. And I remember the one scene specifically where I was so freaking confused on if we're doing dream thing or real thing was the scene where he killed the coach,
right?
Because they do the thing where he like walks into the bar and. I just assumed he was dreaming for that scene.
Well, it's like he sleepwalks out of his house.
Yeah.
But is he dreaming? Is he sleepwalking? Is he possessed? They never explain that.
They never explain it, and the way
he goes into the bar.
They shoot the bar very like it looks like a dream bar. You know what I mean? Like, because like. It's like way over the top with all the ruffians and the weird stuff going on in the bar.
There's also a song playing in that scene that easily could have been by John Carpenter.
Hilarious. Yeah. So, and like they're doing the thing where like he's walking, because he's obviously a kid walking in the bar. So everybody's turning around and looking at him. So it looks like a dream sequence.
Yep.
And then he runs into his coach. And then his coach, all of a sudden you're at the school and the coach is making him run laps. So it's like, okay, clearly this is a dream because like his coach is a jerk in real life.
Yeah.
So he's having some sort of dream about the coach like finding him at a bar, making him do all this stuff. That's totally Freddy just messing with him. But then they do like the whole scene where like all the equipment comes to life and starts murdering the coach.
Right.
And you're like, well, what is happening now? Is the coach the one having the dream? Like, what is really happening here? And then they do, like, he dies in the shower, and then Jesse's standing there, like, wearing the Freddy glove or whatever, like he's the one that did the kill. And it's just like, I actually have no idea what just happened. Like, was any of this a dream?
They don't show you the kill.
Yeah,
It's not like Jesse comes out and slashes him. It's just there's like smoke, and then he's dead, and then or well, I guess it's steam from the shower.
Yeah.
He's dead, and then Jesse's got the glove on.
Yeah. And the whole thing just felt very confusing to me because I couldn't tell what was supposed to be a dream, what was supposed to be real.
Yeah.
I guess none of it was a dream.
Yeah.
I guess it was all real.
As I say, like even by the time you get to the end of the movie and you look back and you're like, I still have no idea what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the end is also super lame. because that's the one. So his girlfriend, who's not his girlfriend, chases him to that. So that's the one also where they, Freddy's like, I almost feel like they watched, whoever made this one watched the first one and got really confused because instead of being in the boiler room, he is like, they put him in like this big steel iron factory for no reason.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so like Freddy takes control of the kid and he turns into Freddy.
Right.
Which is super weird.
Yeah.
But fine. It's it's a fun effect when Freddy chest bursts him.
Yeah.
Like a xenomorph.
Yeah.
And then he runs around that pool for a little while, which looks dumb. But then he runs to this steel factory, and so his girlfriend.
That party scene is so dumb, dude. Because all the kids are just like and they're just like toppling over themselves, and Freddy's just kind of like, meh,
well, then like
there's like nothing going on.
His dad runs out with a shotgun and shoots almost in Freddy's general direction, kinda,
Right.
Randomly. Like you could have at least tried to aim for him or whatever.
Yeah.
Nah.
There's a bit of random meaningless trivia I can throw at it. The guy who played Jesse's dad is Kreuger, who was in a lot of I think he was in a lot of probably horror style movies. I can't remember all of them, but years and years later, his kid won the director competition on the Bravo season of Project Greenlight. Remember that Ben Affleck, Matt Damon show? And so he made that movie Feast, which I think there's like 9 of those or something ridiculous now. Also, but that was from winning that contest to be on that show.
Crazy.
Direct movie. And then Kreuger ended up being in that also. He's like the bartender, I think, in like 7 of the 9 or something ridiculous. There's probably like 4 of them, but he's in more than one. I don't know that his kid ever worked again, but at least he can.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he runs out of the party, runs to this big factory. The girl chases him to the factory, and so like our big climactic scene, there's the dogs with the faces on them. That just looks bad.
Yeah. The dogs wearing the rubber people masks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's one of those things we talked about it too, because it looks so bad and so obvious what it is.
Yeah. And
it's not scary, and it's one of those things like I when we're on set and we're shooting that, we're all like, I guess this looks okay, and we'll do some effect with it and shoot some angles that'll it'll make it look creepy. It'll be all right. But then you get into the editing bay and you're supposed to look at that and go, Ooh, we got to cut these dogs.
Yeah.
They are not good.
Yeah, see, it's either that or you're sitting there on set going, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
And then you get to post and you're like, we're not fixing this.
That's good enough.
But they couldn't cut that because that would have cut a third of their climax.
Yeah.
Because that happens. Then she goes in and there's like a mutant rat and it gets eaten by a mutant cat.
Oh yeah, what the?
And then she just catches Freddy and kisses him, and he bursts into flame, and Jesse comes back.
Yeah.
The
Freddy Kreuger was killed by love and fire.
My only weakness.
My only weakness.
Kisses. Oh boy.
It's so not good.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on 2? I'm free to move on.
Yeah. I'd say my next thought is how good 3 is. So
Okay.
let's just truck along.
Let's do it. Dream Warriors, go.
Dream Warriors is great.
So good.
87. So we got so that was 80. So we got 2 years.
Okay.
We got 2 years.
For one for them to think about what they did.
Yeah.
And then one for them
I was
to
gonna
fix
say they
it.
took some time this time.
Yeah.
All right, we need to rethink this, guys.
So this one they actually took some time. Wes Craven wrote a version of the script. He wrote the first script, and I guess it was. It seems like it had an influence on the final script, but I think his imagination. It seemed like his imagination ran away with him because all they kept saying is that he wrote this script that it was unshootable. We just couldn't do it. So I don't know what that. They never explained quite what that meant.
So I had read something that the thing that Wes Craven wanted to do for 3 was a plot where Freddy came into the real world and started messing with the cast. And the studio said, no, don't do that. And then he eventually did that with New Nightmare.
Yeah.
So I had read something that's what he wanted to do for 3, but I don't know.
Yeah. They talk about the idea. The Dream Warriors was his idea. He talked about having a thing where the Dream Warriors were coming in alone and there's this real weird. Well, it's like it seems weird because all these kids seem to be coming to the city to kill themselves.
Yeah,
and they're not killing themselves; they're being picked off by Freddy one by one.
Right.
But that's all he ever talked about.
Okay, all right.
And that idea kind of flows through a bit because what we get is all these kids in a mental institution,
yes,
that are all being terrorized by Freddy, but nobody believes them.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a great
And
concept.
that kind of shows up a little bit in 6 also, but we can talk about that when we get there. I don't know if Wes Craven had anything to do with 6 or not. I
don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think 3 is the last one he has until New Nightmare. Is the last one he has any direct participation with. We also get Nancy back. Heather Langenkamp comes back.
We do.
Was this the first one that started off with a quote at the beginning, or did the first 2 do that?
I think the first 2 did that. They all do that.
Oh, do they all do that?
They all
Okay.
do that.
I think it was the first one I really noticed it because that Edgar Allan Poe quote popped up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, badass. I'm in."
Yeah.
Yeah. They all start with a quote.
And Larry Fishburne.
And Larry Fishburne and Patricia Arquette. This one's kind of stacked.
Cowboy Curtis.
That's the one.
Well, hi, Pee-wee.
In the flesh.
Well, hi, Pee-wee.
John Saxon is back. So Dream Warriors is really good. What you guys got to say?
So good. Okay, this might be my favorite now that I'm looking back on them.
Yeah.
I just like this movie is just so fun, and like even watching it, like I've seen this one a bunch, and even like just sitting down and watching it together, like we had so much fun while we were watching it.
Yeah.
And there's like such there's a bunch of goofy stuff in it, but it's like goofy in that way that like it's awesome.
Yeah.
And like we always joke about we were joking a lot about
I'm the Wizard Master.
I'm the Wizard Master, and then he's just the worst wizard ever. Dude, kills me.
He's a Ghoulies wizard.
Yeah, he's a Ghoulies wizard. Yeah, because that's the thing. Because we get to that scene where he's gonna like use his wizard master powers on Freddy, and he's like doing the powers or whatever, but then he like goes running up to Freddy, and I was like, why is he charging Freddy? That's not a good idea. And Jaron goes, well, how else is he gonna lightning choke him? I was like, oh, good point. Ghoulies wizard.
Yeah.
But also like the girl with the switchblades and like the punker girl, because she's beautiful and bad. Like, I love it, dude. I love it so much, dude. That her hair is amazeballs.
Well, this is such strong execution, movie wise, as opposed to coming off of 2 where nothing worked, and in this one they've got some kind of outlandish concepts, but they work beautifully.
Right.
Like they set that whole idea up of, well, what if we just take control ourselves while we're in there, and then we can do all this badass stuff? And obviously, it doesn't work out for them,
right?
For the most part, at the end. But it's way different than a bunch of teenagers just running for their lives and being terrified. Right. It's like they decide to take that stand, and you find out that they can control Dream World themselves.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea to expand on the dreaming thing. To be like, oh, well, what if they're just they're imagining themselves being able to do all this cool stuff, like the good side of a dream. I think that's such a great concept to battle Freddy. Like, oh, well, I'll just think about myself having superpowers, and now I can fight Freddy. Like, that's a great idea.
Yep.
That is so cool.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So, and it's got some really cool death scenes in this one.
Totally.
So,
this is where the death scenes really start, I feel
they really start.
This is where they get that Freddy Kreuger, like, that what you would think of as a Freddy Kreuger kill starts happening really in this movie.
And the whole, like, the series takes this step where they really start putting, every movie from now on has this group of kids, and like we talked about earlier, none of them have like those jerk kids that you just expect to want to die.
Yeah.
They're all friendly and good, and they're all kids you can usually root for. But they bring together such weird demographics,
Yeah.
And even movie to movie. So it's like we've got the wizard kid in this one, and then we've got the mute kid. Like everybody has their thing. We've got the the chick that was she was kind of a junkie, but then she's a badass in the dreams and stuff like that.
Great.
Yeah, and that flows through movie to movie. Is you just have. It's like you have a representation of all these different like trope groups from like high school or whatever in these friend groups together, and then they all get their moment, and the moment leads to anybody watching this movie, especially teenagers and stuff like that, like this whole series, you can find someone in these 3 movies here specifically to identify with. Like somebody's into the stuff you were into. Everybody gets their fight moment. Everybody gets their kill, and some of the kills are, kind of lame because there's a bunch of them, but some of them are really cool, and they really try to do something different with a lot of this stuff. And I love how you can watch them trying new concepts, trying new camera tricks, trying new special effects stuff. Some of it, even when it really does not work, even when you watch one and it just ends up being super cheesy, you can still respect the effort, that they're really going out of their way to take this formula that works and not mess with the formula at all, but mix new concepts and ideas and techniques into it to keep it fresh. And it flows through for, 4 movies in a row, almost flawlessly.
Yeah.
It all starts really with this one. Like the first one set up the concept, the second one was just a garbage runoff, and then 3 is where they kickstart what the franchise really is.
Yeah, and the first one, it's almost like you feel like they looked back at that opening, well, not the opening sequence, but that first kill, Tina's kill.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, what if they were all like that?
Yep.
And then they just let it go, you know? And it kind of comes to that thing that you can almost see. I don't know that necessarily this was like their idea, but with 2, it was almost like they were trying to ground it a little bit. Like, well, what if this kid's possessed and he's doing the killing?
Yeah.
Right? And in 3, they're just like, what if everything was just bananas bonkers and you could do whatever you wanted? Like it's a dream. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah. Bananas bonkers.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And yes,
they did.
Yes, it is.
I love so Patricia Arquette, who is Kristen.
Yes.
She has the ability to pull people into her PreDreams. So that's how all these kids are now able to come into the dream together.
Yeah.
I love the first time. It's got that great scene. The first time she pulls Nancy into her dream, and there's a giant Freddy snake who's about to swallow her, and Nancy runs in and stabs it with the mirror, and it spits Kristen out, and it looks at Nancy, and it just goes, you.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, he's back. I love that scene.
So good.
Dude, it's
Also,
such a good scene.
It's such a good scene, and it's one of the best effects. Like, that snake Freddy is creepy and disgusting, and it's just so good.
Well, I felt like when Nancy first walked on, I had that moment, because I have seen these. I thought I had seen all of these before. I thought I had watched them with you several years ago. Going back through this, I'm sure I had seen this one before. I think I probably had seen at least up through 5, but I'm not positive. I definitely had not seen 6 or 7.
Okay.
But I don't have a solid... Like, I have memories of kills. I didn't have a strong memory of the storyline, and I didn't remember Nancy being back.
Right.
So when she showed back up, I got super excited.
Yeah.
And then when she first gets pulled into that dream and Freddy first sees her and has that interaction, like I got a double dose of that feeling again because I got to feel it through Freddy going, it was really well done.
And her hair is huge.
Oh, it's full. It's full 80s.
Big 80s.
It's
for
full
the
80s.
for the time, it was moderate.
She's not in Texas, Danny. Come on. So Freddy starts picking off these poor kids.
Yep. That first kid when he gets blood marionetted.
That was gonna. I was gonna.
That
bring
was
that up.
awesome.
That is one of the best kills, man. That
it was great
for sure.
Oh man,
His tendons rip out of his arm.
Yeah, they rip his tendons.
Walk him down the hall.
Well, I love like when that
man.
one kid sees him through the window and starts like screaming at him, and then tells his friend to go get help, but like his friend's like the mute kid.
Yeah.
So he's like sending the mute kid to go get help, and so the mute kid's just running around like waving his arms and pointing, and like trying to get people's attention, and everybody's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Well, I also love that because this also has the primetime kill. Welcome to primetime kill.
Yeah.
Where he smashes that girl's head into the.
Yeah, that was like the second
good.
one.
And
that was one of those that was really simple but super cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I also love making the joke all the time because like. Some of these, when he marionettes the kid, it looks like the kid sleepwalked up and killed himself, right?
Yep.
And when he
can't
TVs
explain,
that kid, it looks like she catapulted herself 3 feet into the air.
That girl did not kill herself by
first.
diving into the TV. So,
But
Dude,
what if she did?
That's a great effect
But
too.
what
though.
if she did?
Freddy head-
Must have caught herself by surprise.
I love how the Freddy head pops out of the top of the TV. You got like that silver Freddy head, and then you got the big robot arms. Oh, it's so good,
Dude.
It's so good.
And all practical effects, man. The practical,
It means so much.
It really does.
There's so much more fun to look at, even when they're not good, right?
They're still fun to look at.
Yes,
That's
they're
what I'm
so
always
much more
saying.
fun to look at.
Yes.
Than
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, even when they try stuff that doesn't work, you can respect the effort.
Man, well,
Right.
this
So
is
much.
this is the movie too where we get like the skeleton Freddy fight.
I was gonna
right?
say,
Yes.
And I love the skeleton Freddy.
Well, even
fight.
that when he first like shows up and they got that little claymation like action going on,
Yeah.
which they only did. It was only for like a second or whatever,
He's
but it
the
was
puppet.
Yeah.
He turns into one of the puppets.
Oh, yeah, that's so good,
and that was
too.
so. I thought that was so well done for what it was there. And then like later on when they do the skeleton thing,
straight Jason and the Argonauts
Yes.
Yep.
style.
So
skeleton. Yeah.
the other doctor, Dr. Neil Gordon, who has been these kids' doctors before Nancy shows up, he's trying to figure this whole Freddy thing out. And he goes and talks to Nancy's dad, and they figure. And, well, he's also seen Mother Mary. What's her name?
Oh, that's right. This is the one where they
it's Freddy's
introduce-
Yeah, it's Freddy's mom. It's Amanda Kreuger.
Yes.
But they're calling her Muddy Mother Mary.
Muddy Mother Mary.
I think they call her Mother Mary Francis.
Okay.
And so he doesn't figure out it's her, but she keeps telling him he's got to be buried. He's got to be laid to rest. He must be laid to rest in consecrated ground.
Yeah.
So finally he goes and gets him and John Saxon, who's back. Yay.
Yeah.
Everybody's back.
Yeah.
They go and they had hid the body. All the parents had hid the body. I guess we didn't even talk about that. That the parents had killed Freddy.
We really never got into the mythos when we were talking about one.
Right. We jump past that. The mythos being, and I assume everybody knows the Freddy mythos, that the parents of Elm Street, Freddy Kreuger was a child murderer. He got off on a technicality. When they caught him, they had to release him on a technicality. So all the parents on Elm Street hunted him down and burned him to death.
Right. And I want to make this distinction too, because we noticed this while we were watching them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really refer to him as a child molester.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
a child killer.
Yeah.
He was the Springwood slasher.
Yeah.
Now, there was like a scene where they showed a newspaper and it said like child molester burned alive in his house. So like that was like there,
Right.
but they always focused on him being more of a serial killer of
Yeah.
kids and not a molester of
Yeah.
kids.
I think
I noticed that really,
Yeah.
like that was really a thing throughout these.
Yeah, and I'm assuming we'll get into that deeper when we get
Yes,
into the.
I just wanted to
the
bring that up
remake, but
now before we
Yeah.
get into.
Yeah, I'll save the rest for later. Then.
Yeah.
But I think that's always in these early ones, in the earlier ones specifically. I always love that kind of extra added layer because while all these parents are kind of, oh, you're crazy kid, oh, it's come back down to earth. Like all these parents one time hunted a man down and murdered him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like that.
Well,
extra,
and all these kids are randomly talking about the guy they chased down and
Yes.
burned and murdered. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was what he originally was just coming after the kids of the parents,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But then with these other movies, it just kind of expanded into
Yeah,
other kids, so.
Well, and that's one of the things that they did in 2 and sometimes gets pointed to in the second one when he's at that pool scene. There's the one moment where he said, "You're all my children now," and that's him expanding his influence to
Interesting,
any
yeah.
of the kids.
because now
not
they've all
just-
seen
yeah.
him, and now
Right.
they all know he's there.
Well, and he
so
also
now
he also got all the kids except for Nancy.
Right.
In the first one.
Right.
You know. Yeah. So I guess when you ascend to the realm of Dream Demon, you get your revenge, and then you got to go to work.
yeah. Then you got to go to work.
Gotta make the sale. A always BBC killing. Okay, so John Saxon and this other doctor have to go, and they go to bury Freddy, but as soon as they pull out his skeleton, it comes to life and fights him.
So good. It's so good.
Yep.
I love this scene so much.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
Well, it's great because it's that stop motion overlay of the Freddy skeleton, and he beats him up with shovels and half berries. So and also he can't. So he he can't inhabit that and the dream realm because he leaves. He's in the act of killing the kids.
Right. He leaves the dream
and he leaves
to bring the skeleton to life to try to stop them from doing what they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is another thing like I really love about this franchise, and I couldn't sit here and write down what the rules are because they are confusing, but it does seem to always play by rules, like it never completely throws itself out the window except for pretty much in 2.
They flex a little bit.
Yeah, but, for sure, but there's at least a structure there, but it's not like some of these movies, it's like there's such they never bother to explain or go back or do anything. They just completely will randomly change them series to series or movie installment to installment. This one always has sort of a framework, and they'll alter it and they'll bend it, but it's always there's always a structure to it.
Yep. But after he beats him up and goes back in to kill, he goes back in and kills Nancy. Oh, he kills her dad too. He kills her dad as the skeleton.
Yep,
and then he goes
die.
Yep. And then he goes back in and kills Nancy, which I believe he is now able to kill Nancy because she is afraid for the kids, not for herself.
Look at that!
Smart.
So that's my headcanon there. So all those years he couldn't kill her because she wasn't afraid of him anymore.
Yeah.
She knew she could just take his power away.
Well, if that's not what they intended, that's better. So that's what we're running with.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Should we talk about how terrible these psychiatrists are at some point too? Like, I mean, I know they were 80 psychiatrists, but they really play as like 50 psychiatrists. They're just browbeating these poor kids. It's like, you only want to kill yourself because you're weak and stupid.
Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, like even the what's his name? Like the main doctor before Nancy shows up, like
Dr. Gordon.
Yeah, like early on especially has a tendency to just be like, well, you only want to do this because you're weak. You got to fight out of it, whatever. Like, I don't think that's how you approach this, Doc.
Right,
Definitely not. So then he does end up, he's only knocked out. He's not dead. So he does end up climbing out of the grave that Freddy almost buried him in. Not quite dead yet. and he buries Freddy, throws some holy water on him, which I would like to point out is not consecrating the ground. It's just throwing holy water on. Yeah,
wouldn't you have to like
skeleton.
say prayers or something, or like I don't know. I don't know what the routine is.
Maybe if the water's
but just
holy
dumping
enough.
the water on there probably isn't.
Right.
I love when he steals like all that stuff from that church. Like he steals the holy water, he steals that crucifix, and that priest is like, "What are you doing?" He's like, I'm just gonna borrow this. Here's my wallet. I'll be back. I love that.
Yeah. But then he didn't get. I assume he didn't get his wallet back because he totally buried that crucifix with Freddy.
Yeah. What the? Oh. The priest is just like, "Where's my crucifix?
Yeah,
I'll give you this back."
I think he just had to confess his sins and then he gets his wallet back.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it works.
Okay, that's the rule. Yeah.
Listen, I went and I watched a drunk get killed by a skeleton and then I buried it. So I do have to. If I have one complaint about this movie, it's the end of Freddy, because we've had so much, because the dream sequences are great, and all the kids are trying to come together and fight him, and he kills Nancy, and he's a skeleton. We have the skeleton fight, but then when he goes away, he just spins around and light shines out of him and he disappears, and that's it. Freddy's dead.
Yeah. He's dead. Yeah. They got him.
So
for real this time, though.
That's the best we can do. Like, he's just gonna spin around and light's gonna come out of him, and then we're done. All right, fine.
The spinning is his only weakness.
Got to leave it open.
The spinning is my only weakness.
So we can look at it and go, he's definitely not dead. He's coming back.
Oh, I thought this was it.
You thought it was it?
Yeah, I thought they had him this time.
Oh man.
I enjoy the way they leave these not. I don't know. I feel like they don't go for like the real cliffhanger like they did in the first two. They go real heavy on the cliffhanger. Like in this one, Patricia Arquette had been building like a toothpick model of Nancy's house.
Yeah.
And at the end, we just see a light come on in the window.
Yeah.
And then it plays Dream Warriors, which is the greatest movie theme of all time. But like it's not like Freddy's hand comes out of the, you know what I mean? It doesn't come bursting up out of the
bong.
The ground or anything. It just is
skeleton hand. This movie's so good.
So good.
This movie's so good.
I think this really saved the franchise. It made it fun. I think this is the one too, where Freddy became fun. You know, I mean, he definitely wasn't fun in 2.
Right.
And the first one, they were still trying to make him kind of scary and threatening.
Yes.
And in this one
definitely set the formula.
Right.
For the Freddy movie that you know.
Yep.
That's this movie right here starts it off. This movie also kind of kicks off a mini trilogy within the movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Yep.
I like.
Yeah.
So.
I can't wait till we're done with like the first 6 or 7, so we can just talk about the general structure of the franchise.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's move to 4.
Move to 4.
Let's do it.
So we open 4 with Kristen is back, although she's played by a different actor.
Yes.
She's played by your friend
Which I
Tuesday
was-
Night, right?
That's right. Tuesday night.
Which I was totally into because
I'm in a movie with Tuesday night. I didn't actually mean Tuesday
yeah.
night, but I'm in a movie with Tuesday
man.
night.
I thought you knew something. It's
Called The Bloody Man.
thanks for setting
All right.
for setting us up for nothing.
See you guys
Dan.
later.
No, I'm not a general. Like Patricia's probably the least worst Arquette, depending on your feelings on David, which mine are mixed.
Okay.
So it depends on the project probably, but I'm not much of a fan regardless. So like when it showed up and it was somebody else, I was like, oh, it's Kristen. Oh, but isn't that Patricia Arquette? Cool. All right.
I would generally agree, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a Patricia Arquette fan, but I love her in the third one.
Yeah.
And it seems a shame that she couldn't come back for the 10 minutes that she's in this
one. Is there a
one.
story behind that, or do you know?
Not that I could find.
Okay. I
She
don't know
was
if that was in the
I think
documentaries or not.
she had already kind of been. I think she had gone on to do something else, and she was already kind of like, no, Patricia Arquette.
Got
Yeah,
too-
maybe
got-
she didn't
got-
want to do it
yep.
if she didn't get to have the whole movie
got
or
got
something.
too big
Maybe.
for the role too quick.
Yeah. Or
Arquette's, man.
you never know, man. It might have just been. I mean, these are huge movies. They're still not like summer blockbusters. So
No.
it might just have been like, hey, you want to do this thing? No, cool. We didn't want to pay you to do this thing.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, you wanna make rent this month? Yeah, thought so. You're Kristen. Come on.
You're Kristen.
And she's good. Although, like, I guess my one complaint, like, she doesn't feel like Kristen at all to me. And in saying that, I don't know that like Patricia Arquette's Kristen was such a rich character that like I really got to know her. You know what I mean? Like, we did. She was great in that movie, but is there anything that really makes her stand out as like, oh, this is Kristen that Tuesday Night didn't do?
Yeah, exactly. Like
know,
it was one of those things where at first you're like, oh, it's a different actor. That always kind of bothers me. But like literally a couple minutes in, I was over it.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
fine.
For
it was
sure.
good. This is Kristen. Cool.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Following the story.
Yep.
So it was fine.
So right away, she's having a scary dream and pulls in Kincaid and Joey.
That's right. Yeah.
Who were the other 2 survivors from 3.
Yeah.
Which they were both played by the same actors.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome to see them back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that maybe makes Tuesday Night stand out so great is like right away Joey and Kincaid show up and you're like, who is this? Who is Tuesday Night? Come on, your parents couldn't name you something real. Like what are we doing here?
That has to be a stage name, right?
It probably is.
I would assume.
It probably is.
I would assume. But they tell her, so they immediately, she's like, I got a bad feeling, and they're both like, come on, Freddy's dead, and they're in they take her to the boiler room, and they're like, oh, the pipes are cold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Which was also super cool.
Yeah. It's a cool scene. And then they go to school the next day. We meet some of Kristen's new friends, Alice.
They're all out of the psych ward. They're all just back in school now.
Yeah,
And,
they're
like
healthy
everything's
now. They're
normal
cured.
and fine. Yep,
Cured.
exactly. And now we get our big group of kids that don't seem like they should belong together based on their interests, but but it works great.
Right.
Alice, who is shy girl. Her brother Rick, who is the master of Kranati.
Yeah, Kranati.
That's way better. My note just says this dude definitely doesn't know karate.
It's such movie karate. It's
for
amazing. 80s movie karate. Man.
Sheila, who is our nerd girl.
Yeah.
Super smart girl. and Debbie, who is our weightlifter girl. I didn't know that was a.
You didn't know that was a movie trope?
I didn't know that was a movie trope.
The weightlifter girl. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because like she could be such a character, like what a in like what a unexpected character. The strong weightlifter is a girl, except she just plays like such a flat character trope, even though she's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like her only personality trait is, I lift weight and I eat healthy. I eat, I eat healthy foods. Like, okay, great. But then Kincaid's dog pees Freddy back to life.
A dog named Jason.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Fire pissed Freddy back to life.
That's so great. That is so great. Yeah, dude, the fire pee had me rolling.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Which is a great scene because they're back in the he dreams he ends up back in the
like the car yard?
the
rec yard?
Yeah, I don't know why. The junkyard.
Junkyard, yeah.
We also didn't talk about neat little Easter egg in 3.
Yeah.
The trunk of the car that they hid Freddy in was totally Christine.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Good
Awesome.
stuff. Good stuff.
So Freddy comes back to life, kills Kincaid right away.
Poor Kincaid.
I loved Kincaid.
He made it all the way through the last movie and not this one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Although he did dump that car on Freddy first.
Yeah, dude. He totally did.
Yeah.
I love it.
Which actually seems strong. I didn't make the complaint when we were talking about 3 that Kincaid in Kincaid's dreams he's super strong. He doesn't do anything that I couldn't do in real life. Like, and I'm not that I'm super strong, but like I have literally like when he's showing off his power the first time when they're all kind of in a group, he's like, I'm super strong, and he picks up this chair and starts bending the chair. I've literally done that. Yeah. Usually the opposite because I'm putting it back after it's already bent, but I've literally done that.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Jared. I think you're super strong.
Thank you.
Well, was it Kristen, who, aside from her ability to pull people into her dreams, her dream power is that she can do flips.
Yeah.
I'm a gymnast.
Hey, you ever tried to do a flip? It's hard.
Well, but then also just like, because everybody else had superpowers, right?
Yeah,
and the kid's like, the one girl, she's beautiful and bad, and the other kid, he's the wizard master. She's the best. And Kincaid's super strong, and they're like, what can you do, Kristen? And she's like, oh, look, cartwheel.
A cartwheel.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
But it's great because there's continuity because they do that with her in this movie too. Because straight up in her dream, she's like doing crazy flips and stuff. It's like, oh,
that's right.
She's using her dream superpower,
that's
gymnastics.
Right. So we'll talk about that. Getting back to 4, and here again we've got this amazing pacing because we right away, we've got the creepy dream where Kristen's like, oh, I think he's coming back, and everybody's like, no, you're dumb. We meet all the kids.
No, you're dumb.
We meet all the kids that are going to get murdered. And then Freddy comes back to life, murders Kincaid, then immediately goes and murders Joey, then immediately goes and murders. Like they just start this pace. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get to it. So he murders Joey, sucks him inside the waterbed, which is one of my like.
That's a great kill.
It's a great kill. His mom comes in. So there's the pinup girl.
Well, he also lays that how's this for a wet dream one-liner on the kid.
Yes.
Yeah. And then sucks him down and
through the bed. Freddy comes up through the bed and takes him down. But then when his mom finds the dead body, he is inside the waterbed.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm super disappointed that we never got any kind of aftermath of anybody trying to explain
how that happened.
How
he killed himself by getting into the waterbed.
Yeah, nobody believes in Fred. Like, he must have killed himself. He drowned himself. Well, how did he do that? Climbed inside his waterbed. What?
But how did he do that? I really like to.
He must have fell in the hole and got caught.
Well, they do the kill with the smart girl too.
Oh yeah, and
which is pretty intense.
Want to suck face?
Yeah, and he just that one's very cartoony. Like it's very cartoony, Freddy, because he just sucks the air out of her and she turns into a flat like she looks like
a deflated balloon.
Yeah, like a deflated balloon. Like she looks like Christopher Lloyd from Roger Rabbit.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Remember me, Eddie?
Yep.
But like when they cut back to her in the classroom, it's like she's just having an asthma attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so everybody basically just thinks she died of her asthma. So that's pretty intense too.
Well, so that's after.
Yeah.
Because Alice has to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Because that's after Kristen pulls Alice when Freddy's murdering Kristen. She pulls
Judge Doom. Sorry, I just remembered his name.
Oh, sorry.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Judge Doom.
Yeah, Judge Doom. Okay.
I think that came out the year before this. I think that was 87.
Oh.
So this is a rare instance of Nightmare on Elm Street not setting that trend.
Okay.
So Kristen pulls Alice into her dream, and right before Freddy kills her, Kristen gives Alice her power.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Take my power, she yells.
Well, there's also that because Kristen gets dosed with all those sleeping pills, and they've got that. And wasn't that was?
Oh yeah, her mom.
Yeah,
Her mom doses. Yeah, her mom doses her to put her to sleep.
And she's just like trying to fight that off and kind of wandering. And that was a really cool. That was a really well shot scene of her trying to fight back against that, like trying to get everything set up. And
she was looking for under the bed coffee pot from the last movie. I love that scene, and I forgot about that because there's that scene where like her mom comes in and like takes her coffee pot away and storms out of the room, and then she just slides another coffee pot out from under the bed. I was like, oh, hidden coffee pot.
oldest trick in the book.
I love how coffee is a good way to fight Freddy, though.
Right.
They're always just like, gotta have all the coffee.
Yeah. Well, this was before Red Bull, bro.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So now Alice, and so this here again we get in this one it's really the rule where Freddy uses Alice to pull everyone he kills because he keeps coming to her. When he shows up in her dream, he's like, bring me somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and she accidentally brings somebody else because she doesn't figure out how anything of this is happening.
Yeah.
And this is a great one too. This has great kills. This has the bug kill, which is
Awesome.
Makes my skin crawl. I'm not creeped out by bugs or horror movie scenes, and this one makes my skin crawl.
The beginning of this one is
Well, let's say
awful.
it's a double whammy because of the arm thing.
The arm thing with the barbell.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is just cringe-worthy when that happens. But then she gets the bug arms.
As I said,
and
as soon
turns
as
into a
those
bug.
arms snapped, I was like, all right, this one's already a good one.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't need anything more.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oof.
like, now we can just stab her and we're be done with it. And instead, she just starts growing these giant bug arms, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one that they set up at the beginning of the movie, too, because they did that thing where she, like, stomped that bug to death.
Yep.
And they remember because it was like, what do you got against bugs
Yeah.
or whatever?
Give the bug a break.
Give the bug a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's how she
I was
dies.
like, this is the one where I started to notice that, kids just regularly die horrible deaths in this town, and no one cares.
Yeah.
The school doesn't care. Nobody mourns. The teachers don't bring it up. There's not like a day off for
they're really good at closure because I don't know if you notice. Every single one of these funerals, next morning.
It always feels like that.
No joke.
The next morning.
Yeah, I was gonna say there will be a funeral, but like everybody's still got to be at class on time. Right. You know.
Right.
Well, Springwood seems a lot like Derry, I guess.
Yeah, it's just how it is. So this is great. We talked about what a great horror heroine Nancy was.
Yeah.
Alice blows me away. Like, I don't remember noticing necessarily before this watch through. I mean, I've always loved Alice because she's great. She's a star of 4 and 5.
Right.
But man, she holds this movie together.
Yeah.
And makes it better than just Freddy dancing around. Being Freddy.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned her being the nerdy girl and everything too, and they totally like this is like the She's All That.
They
of
totally.
horror
I was
movies,
just getting ready to bring that up
because she totally transforms into this.
She runs home to get cool.
Yeah.
Well, she's got to be beautiful and bad.
She's got to be beautiful and bad. Yeah.
That montage is one of the funniest things I have ever seen because they're just doing this Rambo montage of all these close-ups of her putting all this like these studded bracelets on and she's getting all
they're all memories. So they're all so she's been collecting. So somehow when Kristen gave her power, it upgraded. so that now everybody who dies, she gets their power.
Yeah.
So she's been collecting everybody's power, and so she goes home and she's also like she's studding up, but she's also putting on like a keepsake from everybody who died.
Which I did not catch that, so that does make it more awesome.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny to like she like fumbles through her underwear drawer to find this one studded bracelet that was hidden in there, and she puts it on.
Well, but regardless, like they just have these close-up moments of them getting this stuff done, and it's just like those Rambo scenes where he's like getting ready to go into the jungle and just start blowing people to smithereens, and they got the music playing and all that stuff. But I, as the audience, know that like the next step after she's gotten all badass is to go take a nap.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's good.
So she goes, and this one has kind of a big blowout at the end because Alice goes and totally ninja fights Freddy.
Yeah.
And also, can we just talk about how much better her Krenati looked than Glenn's?
Yeah, totally.
Yep. I was about to say, like, if she's stealing powers from people, then where did she get the karate?
Right. And she uses that the one gadget that the nerd girl had made her, and like blows a hole in Freddy. Freddy also gets super. I was noticing this time, and I'm sure I've noticed before, but it stuck out to me this time because I was watching it a little more critically. He says a bunch of stuff that sounds mythic in this one. This is the one where, because he says to her at one point, I've been guarding my gate for a long time, and this is where he starts doing the I am eternal stuff.
Yeah,
and this one more than anyone too, is more where he starts collecting souls. Like in the other ones, it's just like he's killing people.
Yeah.
But the like soul collecting aspect is not.
Well, it's like John said, he got all his revenge, so now he had to go to work.
Yeah, so I guess so. Now he's got a soul quota.
This is his work, apparently.
Got it.
Yeah, he's got a soul quota.
Got it. Now he's got to guard his gate.
But yeah, like this is where we get to see like his body, right? With all the faces and everything on it. Yeah,
because she went in that scene in the Nightmare Diner or whatever. What he's like, if the food doesn't kill you, the service will, or whatever. Right. And then he picks up that little Rick meatball.
Oh, dude,
that thing was so gross.
Oh, it's nasty.
Anytime somebody eats something in these movies, it's gross.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I also love the diner scene because he feels so out of, because he comes in, he's like, normally he like hits a one-liner and cackles, right?
Yeah.
And this one he's like, if the food doesn't get you, the service will. Like he doesn't even like really like. Just like he's like, I've been saving that one. Yeah. Okay, all right, Freddy.
I'm trying some new bits.
Oh boy.
But this is the one. So we get I complained about Freddy's death in the last one. This one is phenomenal because this is the one where all those souls tear themselves out of his chest and his body, and he's got the little arms coming out of his arm and pulling the claw into him.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
And they just, all the souls just rip him to pieces.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This is another great movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have really hit their stride with like 3 and 4, and I will even say going into 5. Like I love this little mini trilogy in the middle here.
I love 4 a bunch.
But 4 is very good.
I like 4 better than 3.
Do you?
I
can't even argue with that because it's so good. Yeah. Like we turned that movie off, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so good."
Yeah, I'm a total Rennie Harlan mark.
Yeah.
Also, and this is one of his Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
That he made, and it's so 80s and so Rennie Harlan and so Freddy. Like all these things that I love pour all of themselves into this movie.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah. I also think Freddy still keeps a little bit of threat. He's still a little threatening. He's not like a cartoon character here,
right?
As much. I mean, he was fine. I think he had that in 2. I feel like the Freddy in 3 and 4 are the same Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think.
Well, these movies really do feel like they flow into each other nicely.
Well, yeah.
Like they really feel like proper sequels of one another.
Yes.
And honestly, like 1 really fits with that too. Like I keep talking about these 3 being like a trilogy in the middle, which is totally true, but 1 is absolutely part of that.
Yes, it's like a trilogy. It's like a trilogy that sequels 1.
Yes.
And can we just pretend 2 didn't happen.
Right, exactly. Like if you just knock 2 out and you have 1, 3, 4, 5, that's like a super good contained story.
Yeah,
right
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, and that's because you have this like main trilogy. Like I feel like this, like 3, 4, and 5 is what the franchise is.
Yeah.
If you look back on it, these are the movies right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we'll talk about 6 more in a little bit here, but like 6, I think I enjoy 6 very much as an epilogue. I think it's got some real strength and some real goofiness and all that stuff. But I love it. And then 1 is almost like a prequel, but a really good prequel that just happened to actually come out before the rest of them.
Freddy
too.
origin story.
Yeah. And 2 is just kind of that that garbage one that showed up because the franchise had to go off track somewhere.
Yeah.
Except instead of one of the last, because a lot of times you have those franchises where there'll be a great franchise and then they'll do the last part and it's just god awful.
Yeah.
And then like a while later they'll come back and do another halfway decent like follow up so that the last one isn't terrible. I feel like it's just like that sort of done in reverse. It's like it's the second instead of it's the second one instead of the next to last one in this. But it's such a great overall, just franchise feel all the way through. And like you were saying earlier, how strong it is for a horror franchise, and you said even just for movies in general, and I fully agree with that. I mean, there's definitely franchises I like more. There's definitely franchises that are, I'm sure better films or however you want to judge it. It's all subjective. There it goes. But I can't think of anything that quite rivals the overall, the way this one fits together so well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So let's talk about 5. Not a ton to say about 5. 5 is kind of the lesser follow-up to Dream Warriors and Dream Master.
Yeah.
It's Dream Child.
The Dream Child.
So 5 is...
Well, even there, it's following the perfect trilogy format of, great first one, as good or better second one, and then the third one lives up. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it deserves... It should get a lot of credit. Like, Alice's story is like the perfect sequel for in 5. Like she comes through, you really feel all the growth she went through in 4. You feel that in the 5th one, because like her dad. So in the 4th one, she's kind of the shy girl, lets people walk on her until she stands up to Freddy. And her dad is kind of this drunk who gives her a hard time and expects her to cook dinner and stuff. And then like the first thing we see in the next one is like dad kind of hung back, like she's graduating high school and dad kind of hung to the back and she thought he didn't come, but then there he is and he's like, I didn't want to embarrass you, and like that, and she's like, you didn't embarrass me, and that just feels so like, wow, this girl stood up to him at one point and he has not recovered from it, even though she obviously still does not like hammer him for it, what I mean?
And he's better, he's thinking himself, he's got to be, and that's the other thing we're talking about. The characterizations in this movie, like in general, even the parents, Nancy's dad was, her mom was kind of terrible, but not the worst by any means. But her dad was great.
You totally, once you find out like about her mom, you totally get like that whole. She's probably carrying some guilt and trauma that she's trying to drink away.
Exactly. I was saying, like, they never really redeem her because she gets murdered, but it's not like quite like the randomly abusive parent that you see in a lot of these movies, by any means. And then like Alice's dad, he could easily have steered right into that, but he was never that bad. He was just kind of a screw off the first time he shows up, and now he's totally like rehabilitating himself for his kid after losing his other kid in this next follow up here. So it's like even the parents you can root for the most part in these movies, and it's just it's so refreshing to not have some of those tropes show up, because you're just expecting to hate this person or for them to be generally awful or whatever else, and instead you get some pretty decent characters.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel in 5 that Freddy has gone full cartoon in this one.
For sure.
There is no threat left to Freddy. But in this one, they had such a vision for these dream sequences. These dream sequences are so surreal, and they all feel like man, crazy dreams I've had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like that adds some of the threat that Freddy is lacking, because Freddy just shows up and dances and cuts one-liners, and then maybe sometimes he claws somebody.
Like I noted most of his one-liners from 3 and 4, so I thought that would be a neat archive to have.
Yep.
And gave up immediately on 5, because the first time he shows up, I don't remember what they were. I stopped writing them down right away, because he throws one out and I start to type it, and by the time I'm halfway finished typing it, he has thrown 3 more out. Like, he is giving soliloquies in only one-liners.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, nope, can't even do that. It's gonna take me 4.5 hours to watch this movie if I have to pause it and type everything he says.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So this one has some great kills though, because this has the comic book kill.
The comic book kill.
It's got that kind of aha style, like when he first goes into the book. Mm-hmm. It's got that Take on Me video style animation, which I got super excited for immediately.
Yep.
I laughed about that scene too, because like right at the beginning of that, because that's totally one of those. That's one of those scenes that's always the I'm gonna go to sleep, you stay awake.
Yes, that never works in these.
It never works. Every single time there's a scene where it's like I'm gonna go to sleep, you stay awake. That person goes okay and immediately falls asleep every time.
Yeah.
But like this one was extra funny to me because he was like the comic book nerd. And he was having his comic book reading session by scattering his comic books all over the floor and laying down to read one of them, because that's how I read my comic books too. I just throw them all over the floor, whichever one lands next to me.
That's the best way to keep them pristine.
So but it's great because he goes in and they do the cool animated thing, the Take on Me animation and everything. But like we also get Super Freddy in there.
Yeah,
I'm Super Freddy.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness gracious.
But he turns into like his character, like his comic character that we see him drawing like throughout the movie to like fight back. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But but then the kill is actually interesting because he just kind of like turns him into paper and shreds him.
Yeah.
So there's
it was
really
neat.
no gore. It's just
but it was
it's
cool.
It's still cool. It's
Yeah.
still fun. Yeah.
And it still feels horrific a little bit because you know that like you're able to make that connection that like this is a character we've seen a lot and now he's getting shredded to pieces.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's
Well, and
not Randall is what
yeah.
Jaren kept calling him.
Yep, perfect. And that was one of the, because there's not that many kills in this one. There's only
3, 4.
4, I think.
There's Dan on the motorcycle.
Oh
the
yeah,
the Freddy cycle.
It turns into the Freddy cycle thing. Yeah, that's crazy.
There's the girl that gets force fed, the model who gets force fed, which is another one that like I don't know, it's something like churns my stomach. Something about that scene. I'm sure,
it's and Freddy has. I'm just gonna say it. He's got an unhealthy disrespect for women.
True.
He does not avoid an opportunity to call him bitch.
Yeah, you're totally right. Was this the movie that opened? You were talking about the quotes earlier, and like they did like the real quote at the beginning, and then immediately afterwards they had a Freddy quote that was the "Welcome to Primetime, bitch." I was dying, dude.
That's 6.
Was that 6?
It's 6.
Okay,
But it's awesome.
I died.
It's the best.
It's
It's
like,
the
why
best.
do we get a? I'm in. Okay.
It's the best.
Well, and the storyline in this one is that Alice is pregnant. We find out, and I'm a little I think I know what was going on there, but basically overall, like she's pregnant, and Freddy's gonna try to come in like through the baby, like he's like strengthening the baby with souls or whatever, and that's where I got a little confused because it really was Dan's, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I had this moment where I was like, is it Freddy's somehow, and that's why he strengthened it, but he was just basically going to kind of take over. But one of the really cool storyline aspect I thought of this one is it starts off and it's kind of doing that dream world reality world mix like in 2, which threw me off at first because I'm like, oh, this is going to be awful. But she couldn't figure out. All these things seemed to keep happening while she was awake, but they were still also happening in her dreams, and she couldn't figure out what was going on. And then she finds out she's pregnant, and then a little while later it hits her like, wait, can babies dream? Yeah. And you figure out that that's how Freddy's doing this, like he's actually coming in through the baby's dreams.
Yeah, that's
and
messed
that
up.
is awesome.
Yeah,
you know,
it is
but yeah,
awesome.
like what a cool concept to throw into the mix here.
This also is the one where Amanda Kreuger is back.
Yeah.
And we see kind of some of the flashbacks of him, like, you know, looking back because did they introduce in this one, or was it in 3? Where they introduced the Son of 100 Maniacs thing?
Maniacs. I think they specifically brought it up here, right?
Okay. I mean, they showed it a couple times here. I couldn't remember if they had mentioned it before.
I can't remember when they explained it, but they did, like, because we got the explanation. I don't think it was in 3 that we got the explanation, though, was it? Like, because we met her, we figured out she was Amanda Kreuger, and then they did that whole thing where, like, she's been dead for all these years at the end, right? Because she wasn't really alive. Yeah. And, but at some point they explained that, like, she was, like, the nurse or whatever over the mental ward, where they basically just crammed all the, like, maniacal people into a room together.
These are like the 50 style mental wards we were talking about earlier.
And then she got accidentally locked in that room, so these 100 maniacs just had their way with her over and over again.
Yeah, right.
And that's how she got impregnated with Freddy. Yeah. So he's the son of 100 maniacs.
Yep. Which is a real cool tagline that I like for Freddy.
Yeah.
It also leans toward that kind of backstory that I don't want.
That you don't need. Yeah. It's almost
but
a little.
I don't feel like they overdo it. You know?
You're right. They don't overdo it. Thankfully, I don't think.
I don't think. I don't think they do. I just don't need it at all. Like it's just right on that line for me.
Yeah. Right on the line. Okay.
Yeah. I can see that for sure, but it didn't. It never. It didn't mean a lot to me one way or the other. Like, I found out and I went, oh, cool. And then they never took it to a point where it killed anything for me, you know? Yeah. So it's like, I don't guess I needed it either, but it didn't take anything away.
Yeah. Right. So I think for me, like, you know, kind of like the more we find out about Freddy's backstory, the less I like, you know, like, because in the 6th they talk about, the dream people that gave him this job. No, that's dumb. You know, like, he's not just a regular maniac. He's the son of 100 maniacs. He was doomed to be this. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's like I feel like that just separates him just a little bit from your average maniac.
Sure.
And makes it make sense why there aren't, you know, thousands and thousands of dream demons killing us all the time.
Maybe that's fair. Yeah, so this one has the real cool. So they have to find Amanda Kreuger. So apparently they can't find Amanda Kreuger's body, and they specifically reference the grave. And they're like, they put the grave there because we had seen the grave in 3,
right?
And they're like, and they specifically say something about, they put the grave there, but they never found her body, which seems weird. That, like, what do you mean they never found her body? So she had to give birth at some point.
How did she? I can't remember how she died.
They didn't say it. Then nobody knew.
Okay.
She just vanished. Yeah. She gave birth to Kreuger, and then she vanished, apparently. So they got to find her body and set her.
Died of a broken heart, Padme style.
No.
I dislike you, Buff. So we get the MC Escher scene where Freddy and the baby. Because Alice keeps meeting her baby. Yeah. In the dreams, so like he's already a fully formed soul that she gets to meet.
He's that kid that don't think velociraptors are scary.
I was about to say, I was like, I don't know, I recognize that kid too.
Well, if you looks
like a giant turkey.
If you spent 9 months getting harassed by Dream Demon Freddy, would you be scared of a giant turkey?
Now I know why he doesn't think velociraptors are scary.
Yeah, no joke. Freddy kind of gets trapped in his own nightmare. Which I thought was awesome. But then he turned into a bunch of spiders, which I didn't think was great. And then they did the Escher staircase thing, which I didn't think was done that great. But like,
but Jared said, "Remember when Labyrinth did this way better?"
Yeah. I just kept waiting for Freddy to start singing.
Yeah.
You turn my world, you precious thing.
And I am shocked he didn't.
Oh my god.
You know, yeah. But like that whole sequence was one of those, like a prime example of one of those things where I'm like, I totally respect it because they're putting a ton of effort into it. and I like the concept. I did not think it worked as well as a lot of the stuff they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had his dad. Freddy walked in disguised as his dad one time. The kid didn't know his dad.
Oh yeah.
Just saying. Like that kid did not ever like Dan walks in and he's like, "Son, come to me," and it's Freddy.
Yeah.
But like that kid's like, "Dad?" Like, no, that's not how that works. The kid never met him.
Yeah.
But all right, whatever. And then Amanda Kreuger shows up. So one of Alice's friends has found Amanda Kreuger, set her free, which was super awkward and weird because she finds the body and then like touches her shoulder and the body just disappears. Thank you. And then she disappears.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
And then she comes and
She was just waiting for a moment of mild comforting.
I guess so.
so.
Yeah.
Some of us have unfinished business that's just more intense than others.
That's fair. And then she comes and sucks Freddy back into her womb. And that's the end of Freddy.
Yeah, that was super weird. Yeah. So you're right. Like this one's definitely the weaker of the three that are part of this little trilogy here in the middle.
Yep. But it still does a really good job of tying the other two together.
Still felt
sure,
like it tied together exactly.
Yeah.
Like it all still feels like it flows together in this cohesive story. And
I like a lot of trilogies with weaker endings than this one.
For sure.
Yeah. Exactly. All right.
So that was
5.
That was 5.
That was Dream
That was
Child.
89.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got then
we get into 90s Freddy.
in 91 we get Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare.
Final Nightmare.
And I couldn't find anything why they decided to go this route. I guess they just figured, we topped out. Where do we?
Yeah.
Freddy's as famous as we can make him. How are we going to make more movies about him?
But it was basically like our story's done, but we still still like money.
It does feel like an epilogue, kind of like you said. Like it really does feel like they wrapped up the story that they had started with the last movie, and now they're just doing another one.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting concept too, because they kind of do this almost like this post-apocalyptic thing, because now all the kids and teenagers in Springwood are long dead.
Yeah.
They just don't exist anymore.
They don't they? How do they do it? They reference something at the beginning about how like 10 years from right now or something.
Yeah. It's like 10 years in the future or something.
Yeah.
Technically, so technically we're looking ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like
there's the one kid, the one survivor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's such a like a, it really is like a Blade Runner, because it's got that, it opens on a scene of, or like a map, right? Like a map of the United States, and it's got the star that's like, oh, Springwood, and then it's totally got like that computer.
Yeah.
It's telling the story.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, that's right.
Like,
that's what
it's like. All the children in Springwood are dead. The adults are experiencing mass psychosis.
Yeah.
One survivor tries to escape,
and that's what we talked about. Like we talked about earlier, like the concept of like bringing everybody, like all these kids come to this town to commit suicide. Everybody thinks, but really they're getting drawn in, and then Freddy's murdering them.
Right.
That's kind of like that. That's the way they sort of explain Springwood. Like all of these kids have died or committed suicide, or however they mention it, and so it's just the adults that are left. But then there's this one kid that goes, and they open up with the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yep.
So I'm immediately
this is the best one.
Yeah,
this is the best one
because
it opens with Goo Goo
Yep,
Dolls.
for sure. Like I feel like I just watched 3 movies that I loved, and I'm happier now than I was then. And then they open up on that kid who's sort of set up as the protagonist, the John Doe. Which when I first look at him, I'm like, man, that might be a young Walton Goggins, and then I get excited again. Doesn't turn out to be, but still, gave me the idea. And then immediately, like he's on this plane scene, gets sucked out of the plane and ends up in his house somehow, and then the house is in the air. And it's just spinning around doing that thing, and then we get the Wicked Freddy of the West flies by and cackles at him on a broomstick, and immediately I'm like, all right, I'm in. Whatever. Because I was so hesitant going into this movie, and I was sure I hadn't seen this one. Like right when it opened, I'm like, I would remember something of this. And they're, like they had finished their story. and then they did this other one, which is usually a cash grab and often done with no heart, and I don't know what's going on. And none of the things I just saw make me feel any better about that part of it. But so he rides by on that broomstick, and I just went, you know what? I'm just exactly. I'm just gonna take what they give me in stride and hope for the best.
Yeah,
and I think I was rewarded.
Yeah, this movie's like a victory lap for Freddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And he is full on Bugs Bunny in this one.
Yeah.
He's, looking at the camera, saying stuff to the audience, cutting his one-liners.
I mean, this has got one of my all-time favorite kills in it. And it's funny because this is probably the movie that I saw first out of all of them, but didn't realize that Freddy's Dead was the one I had saw. Because there were, things about this movie are things that I remember seeing when I was young from Freddy movies. Specifically the video game kill, I remember. But I wanted to talk about that beginning scene, because he's on that bus where he's getting out of town or whatever, and there's a wall, an invisible wall that he breaks through that apparently Freddy can't cross. Has it ever been brought up that Freddy's bound to Springwood before, or is that something they just kind of made up for this movie?
It's definitely something they made up for this movie.
Okay. Yeah.
But although it falls in line with him always having to have a connection to somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he can't connect outside of Springwood,
right,
he's not going to be able to, leave Springwood.
Yeah. They had never brought that up before, but they had also never done anything that would...
Right.
They didn't have to break a rule to do that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And didn't he get hit by a bus in the dream and break through that wall and then landed on that rock or whatever?
Well, Freddy's driving the bus.
Yeah.
No screaming while the bus is in motion. That's one of my favorite parts. One of my favorite parts because...
That whole thing is so ridiculous because that is a Roadrunner cartoon at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, he's on the plane, and then he's in the house, and he sees the Wicked Freddy of the West, and then he falls down a hill for 20 minutes, and then he comes to the bus station, and the bus guy or the ticket seller is like, "Don't miss your bus, round trip ticket," and he takes the bus and kind of stumbles back into the street, and he's like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And the bus comes out of nowhere and smacks him.
Yeah.
And he's stuck to the front of it.
Yeah.
And Freddy, and I always love because he gets hit. And then the next scene we get is just Freddy laughing at him because he's stuck to the front of that bus, and Freddy's just going, ha!
What's that That whole scene is like what a Roadrunner cartoon would look like if all of the Coyotes' tricks worked.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. So he gets slung out of Springwood. Goodness gracious.
Sprung out of Slingwood?
Yes, that's it.
We'll see if I had used peas, they both would have worked. He gets sprung out of Springwood, but he loses his memory. He gets picked up and taken to another group home mental institution, kind of.
Yeah, like a juvie.
It seems a juvie. Yeah, it seems a lot less formal than the one in 3.
And this is where I saw the guy who might have been Walton Goggins and totally wasn't, but this is where we run into long-haired
Breckenmeyer.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So immediately I got excited because I'm like, I do not remember if that's Franklin or Bash, but it's one of them, and I'm happy.
We also get so there's Lisa Zane. So we meet 3 new kids, Breckenmeyer, the kung fu chick, and the deaf kid.
Yeah,
that's
Carlos.
All right, those are their official names.
Carlos. Okay. Spencer, Carlos, and Tracy are their names, and they are working with Maggie, who is their counselor, I guess. She doesn't seem like a counselor. Like they have she's probably a caseworker. I should know this is my job. She's this feels like a group home, except. Do I know? I don't know any. I don't know.
They're definitely troubled kids because they're definitely troubled kids
for sure.
Because they keep getting sent there, and then they find that pipe bomb that one of them's made, which seems like overkill.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Yeah,
I was like, pipe bomb, jeez.
Man, let me tell you guys.
And that was Bash's pipe bomb, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was. Yes. Breckenmeyer's. It was Road Trip's pipe bomb.
This is Road Trip's pipe bomb.
Nice. There's also where we see Yaphet Kotto, who is. I was really excited to see him, but he is totally out of place in this movie. Like the head doctor or whatever he plays.
Yeah, so he's like their actual counselor.
Yeah. Like he's a guy from Alien, and he's done some serious roles in his day.
Yeah.
And again, like what we talked about earlier, like it's good for actors to not think that roles are beneath them, and I didn't feel at any point like he was phoning any part of this in. He just felt really out of place in this movie, but in a fun way.
Right.
So Spencer, Carlos, and Tracy have this plan to escape. Maggie decides it's going to be the best idea to take John Doe back to Springwood, so he can get his memory back. And so they all end up in the van on the way to Springwood together. When they get there, she sends like, and this part I couldn't get myself not like to just accept, because they get there and she's like, all right, now you kids take this van straight back,
dude. Super weird.
Yeah, that is not.
Yeah.
They were running away from home, back? And you're handing them a van.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they had all snuck out and whatever.
And the most ridiculous part is they seem like they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Until they just stop and break into a house to sleep for the night.
Well, they couldn't get out of town. They kept trying to leave, and they just they would always end up in the same spot every time they tried to leave. So we're seeing some
like they had the sign coming into Springwood or whatever that just said Springwood, a nice place to live.
Yeah. A nice place to live.
That's perfect.
Did they went to that creepy carnival?
Yeah, that's where we got the Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold cameos.
Yeah.
This movie was so weird.
So weird.
Yeah.
But
that's also when we get the map trick, which is one of my favorite tricks.
I was gonna bring that. Like, I thought that scene was hilarious because the trick is that there's a kid in the back. They're trying to look on the map because they keep just driving in a circle no matter what they do. And so this kid starts opening the map, and then he keeps opening it, and then the next thing you know, the entire back of the van is full of a map.
Yeah.
And it just he finds like words that are written on there, and it just says "you're effed," you know.
Yeah.
And until I saw that note, I did not realize we were in a dream sequence, because that's just how I remember maps being.
Yeah.
You know? So like, it didn't play as off at all until I saw that, and I'm like, oh, that is a lot of map.
Yeah.
But the part where they're getting lost over and over, that does seem a little more like supernatural than we typically get, right? Because like none of them are sleeping.
Yeah.
But they can't get out of town. So like, what's going on there?
Yeah, for sure.
That's something new.
Well, he's killed the whole town. His powers have grown.
Oh, okay.
That's also why he can just do everything in this movie.
Yeah.
So one of the things about this movie is like Freddy can just do anything he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the kills and the dream sequences are totally off the rails.
Yeah.
One of the things, so Rachel Talalay was like producer for all of them. And one of the things she had complained about sometimes drafts would come in and she'd be like, we got this draft from so-and-so and it was off the rails. Freddy could just do anything. And if Freddy can do anything, he's not scary. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But like watching this movie this time, I totally got it. I was like, oh, this is what she meant. Yep. Yes, okay. Yeah. If Freddy can just do anything, he's not scary.
Yep.
Yeah. So they crash in this abandoned house because all the house. Well, like so
well,
they go.
There's like a sign that says it's for sale or something like that. So they're like, oh, we can just break into here and sleep for a while or whatever.
Right,
and then they go in and then it just turns into
Nancy's house.
Yeah.
Well, and that was we kind of laughed at that because it's like, why did he need to trick them into going to this house? They don't know who Nancy is. They don't know about Nancy's house. Like, why in the world would he put up a facade? That's
I think because it was old and decrepit and run down looking, and so it looked like this inviting place you could just they wouldn't have looked at Nancy's house with like the overgrown vines and stuff like that on it and been like, let's just go sleep in there, you know. Instead they look at this normal suburban house and they're like, we can just crash here because nobody's going to be home because it's for sale.
That makes sense.
And then
and this is where we start getting the crazy stuff. Like, I think, isn't Breckenmeyer the first one that kind of gets picked off?
No, Carlos is the first one.
Carlos is the first one. That's right.
And I will point out, too, we're a solid half an hour into this movie probably before anything happens after that opening sequence. And so it does start to feel like it's a little bit slow. which was starting to worry me at the time because the formula was always fast paced.
Yeah,
I don't need a slow Freddy movie.
Right.
And but it kicks off right here and runs with its normal.
Yeah.
Speed
I would
for the
say
rest of
it comes in just short of dragging.
Yeah.
Like you're just starting to notice, like, man, nothing is happening in this movie when Freddy shows up to kill Carlos.
Yep. Well, and in point of fact, when I was watching it, I ended up like falling asleep during this one right around this time, and it was one of those where like I would wake up and I'd start to get back into it, but nothing had happened yet. I'm just like, I'm not gonna pay attention to any of this if I try.
Right.
So I went to bed and then came back the next day, and I think I remember telling you even in there, I'm like I want to like this movie because it started off strong, but I'm like 30 minutes in, give or take, and nothing has happened yet. So hopefully it picks up pretty quick. Yeah. And then as soon as I hit play,
right,
boom,
you know, here we are. So this is the one where these are all, the Carlos and Spencer especially are like long kills.
Long. I was gonna say that specifically about Spencer's kill. It takes forever.
I don't know why it was, but for some reason, like him picking on that kid's disability felt like just over the line, Freddy.
Yeah. Freddy, you've gone too far.
Over the line.
Over the line, Freddy. Take it back a notch.
Just regular torment the poor deaf kid.
Yeah. So everything he does to Carlos centers on him being deaf or hard of hearing. I guess I never really understand if he's actually deaf or just deaf in one ear.
Well, I mean, he's got a like the hearing aid he can hear with it, so
right.
He's not fully. But
regardless,
yeah. But he loses that thing and then basically can't hear anything, and then he gets that Freddy jams that thing through his ear or whatever.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Hey, jabs a Q-tip through one ear and it pops his hearing aid out the other ear.
Yeah.
Yep. And he has to pull it back.
Yeah.
That's a good kill.
Yeah. It is full on cartoon mode, like you said.
Because then he's wandering around, not able to hear, and Freddy's just behind him, like dancing and doing crazy stuff.
So I say that's the part where I felt like it was over the line because it was like, well, now you're not even tormenting him; you're just making fun of him.
Yeah, jerk. What a jerk, Freddy.
But they do that bit where he gets the hearing aid and he gets excited. He puts it back in, but all of a sudden, like now it's like supercharged.
Yeah,
and so he can hear too much, and so they flash to Freddy and he's standing up on this railing and he's just holding this pin like he's gonna drop it, and the kid's like, no, you wouldn't, And he goes to drop it, and I love that because there's just this dramatic pin falling, and the kid's like, no, and because he knows what's going to happen, because he can hear the pin falling, and so he dives to catch this pin, and he catches it, and I'm sitting there watching that going, man, that kid, like, diving for that thing would have made infinitely more noise than the pin just dropping.
Yes.
And then he catches it, so he's happy, and then he looks back up, and Freddy's just holding, like, 100 pins.
Yeah.
And he drops all of those, and they all hit the ground, and nothing happens.
Yeah. He screams, ah!
Yeah. But then
he claws the chalkboard.
Yep. He pulls out this chalkboard, and then he just he's literally just going, huh?
I know, dude. Yeah.
And then he just starts stretching it out because he's a cartoon now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just makes it huge, and then he just takes his claws and starts tapping it. And then when he starts doing the fingernails on the chalkboard thing, then Carlos's head explodes.
Yeah, his head explode. Yeah, I know. It's super wacky.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's so funny.
Well, super wacky. It's pretty wacky. Because in super wacky, he kills Spencer.
Oh my goodness. Well, see that, because this one's really long and drawn out too, because because he was our stoner character.
Yeah.
So this one starts out with him getting high, and then he falls asleep. So then, like, we get like the Anagana Devita thing, and like it's all trippy, and he's like, "Whoa!"
Well, like the TV, like the colors from the TV come and pull him.
Yeah,
well, we also get our Johnny Depp cameo.
Oh yeah.
Worth mentioning.
Yep.
Which he is listed in the cast as Glenn Lance, which is just his character from the first one.
Oh, weird.
So, yeah,
Interesting.
But he does the this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs thing. And
You do a frying pan. Any questions? And then Freddy hits him with a frying pan.
I guess we may have listeners who have never seen the "This is your brain on drugs" thing.
Isn't that weird?
That's I feel
Classic commercial, man.
Yeah. Super old though.
Yes. Any questions?
Yeah.
And then Freddy smacks him in the face. He's like, "Yeah, what do you want? Looks like a frying pan and some eggs to me." I love because Spencer giggles at that.
Yeah.
And that is such a stoner joke. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is the perfect joke in context. Because Spencer is geeked out of his head, and when he just looks like some frying pan and some eggs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well written. Well written.
Like the colors start coming out of the TV and pull him into the TV, and there's several moments in this movie where the special effects make me look at it and it's like, because they're beginning to play with some of the CG stuff, and I'm just watching that going, man, this is 1991. The world is 2 years away from Jurassic Park, and you would never guess it from this cheesy nonsense.
For sure. Well, I said, so he sucks him into a video game, and I kept going, that video game reminds me of Nick Arcade.
Oh, totally.
That old show, because it would have that was like this game where like these kids are crawling around in the video, playing a video game,
right?
And
they're basically running
superimposed
into a video game because they're like running around a green screen room, basically.
I feel like this is another one of those examples of those times though, where like this sequence is so over the top and so silly, but they are trying new things.
Yeah.
And they are unapologetic about their devotion to it. And so, like, even when they don't work, they still work.
Yeah. Well, like, because he even gets interrupted in the middle of this one because he's using the controller and he's controlling Breckenmeyer around, making him hop around the house. But then
because Tracy and John Doe have found them, or Maggie and John Doe have found them, and Tracy and John Doe jump into dreams to try and help Spencer.
Well, remember when he's just bouncing around and stuff like that for a while?
I love it.
But remember too,
that's what takes it over the line for me before the record.
In the video game, he finds a power up at one point and is kicking Freddy's butt.
Yeah.
So this is a long sequence.
Very long, because he loses the controller and then like they go away and then he goes back to the game because that's when he pulls out the power glove claw thing.
Yeah.
You're like, now you're playing with power. Like he does the whole thing and then he finishes him off. But like
also has Robert Englund never played video games?
I'm
pretty sure he never. Like he did not look like a guy who knew how to play video games.
But say, right before video games got big, he was a classically trained thespian who spent the entire rise of home video games being Freddy at every convention he could find.
In a makeup chair. He spent the entire rise of video games in a makeup chair. Because the Freddy makeup took 6 hours to apply.
Yep. So no, he read that page of the script or that 11 pages of the script or whatever, and had no idea what it even meant, but was all in on it.
I've heard about these
video games. Well, the end of this kill, I feel like isn't even like that great though, because like he just makes him jump around the house and hitting his head on the ceiling, which is kind of funny. But he basically just gets him up to the top of the stairs, and then he like tilts him forward a little bit, and then he just falls down the stairs.
Yeah, like he pushes him over
into a pit into hell.
Like, into a pit. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Into the pit. That's right.
Which doesn't change your argument. It's just
Maggie standing there to the side watching, with plenty of time and room to like jump over to those stairs or grab him on the way down or do anything to stop his descent. Yeah. And she just like watches him fall. I'm like, man, she could have put a little effort into this.
Yeah, she Austin Powers him. No! But this is where we find out. So then, because then he also kills John Doe here before they leave.
That's right.
And this is where we find out, because we've been working under the assumption as they've been in town and they're kind of finding things out about Freddy, and they find out that maybe Freddy had a kid. We start working under the assumption that John Doe is Freddy's kid, and this is where we find out that Maggie is Freddy's kid.
Because he even said he's gonna, because they have that great scene where he's going to go into the dream to save Franklin, and when he they're like, well, how are you going to stay safe? He's like, he's not going to hurt me. I'm his kid. Yeah. And then he tells the kung fu chick that she's got to knock him out.
Smack me with his board.
She's like, I got a better way to do it. He's like, no, you got to hit me. And then like
hits her.
Yeah, hits her. And so she decks him, and he falls through that table. And then
Yeah, which is a great effect that I'm a sucker for every time. That they do it several times throughout the series, where like somebody is like falling and fall asleep as they fall. So like they fall into something and like fall into the dream world.
Yep, disappear there in the dream world. And then he gets up and gets his bearings, and then that chick just shows up there with him, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I told you I had a better way. It's just meditation." You know?
So then Freddy. So after he kills John Doe. Because he even says, "Did you think I'm your dad?"
Yeah. Well, they go back to like the house flying again and everything, and he keeps trying to escape, and then keeps ending up back in the house. And at one point, he's even like sitting there on it, like he wakes back up in his bed, and he's like, "Nope, not going to do it this time. Just going to wait right here." And then the room catches on fire, and he's like, "Ugh." And so he goes through it again, but at one point he jumps out and he's like parachuting, and then that's when like Freddy shows up and just starts like cutting the parachute, you know. He's like, "Ah, what are you doing? I'm your kid." He's like, "Oh no," you know. He mentions having a daughter or something like that, and then actually lets the kid fall onto a bed of spikes because just falling onto the cement,
he
I guess.
pushed the spikes out.
Roll the spikes
Wile E.
out.
Coyote style.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Because pavement wouldn't have done it.
Because this was
spikes.
totally one of the other look at the camera moments too. Because he like did like he was having a hard time pushing it. He like puts his back into it. And he's like it's so ridiculous, dude.
And then he jumps into. So after that kid dies, he jumps into Maggie's head, and they come back, and this is where we get the full backstory that.
So he fully breaks out of Springwood.
Yes.
And then we get the memories.
Yep. That she was his kid, and she's the one who actually told on him, and because his wife found his murder dungeon, and so he killed her, and then he made the little girl promise to tell, but then she did tell. Yeah, but then she did tell, and now she's his gateway out into the rest of the world, and every town has a Springwood. Every town has an Elm Street.
Yep. I did like that.
For sure.
That was cool because she tells me, she's like, you can't leave Springwood or whatever. And he's like, every town has an Elm Street. And then they just get this like old decrepit like Elm Street sign that just pops out in the town he's in. So now the threat that he's out in the world and can go anywhere theoretically.
Yeah.
And then we get the 3D sequence.
Yeah, the 3D sequence. Did you watch it with 3D glasses?
Not yet. I need to go back and do that. I meant to do it after I finished them all, but
we didn't have the work.
Spoiler alert: it doesn't work at all.
I would assume not.
Man, they go full in with the gags.
I tried just using like the 3D conversion stuff on like the PlayStation and the TV, but it didn't do anything at all.
That doesn't work.
Everything throughout this whole segment is totally the whoa, hey, like they're just always shoving something in front of the camera.
Because somewhere. It's before this that he mentions the Dream People, which I think you mentioned a little bit earlier. But like, I don't think they gave a full backstory on that. But at some point, he just makes reference to like when he died, like the Dream People came to him and gave him this task of gathering souls or whatever.
The weird little Kreuger sperms.
Yeah, and that's what you see. Like you see these in like 3D or whatever, just kind of flying around the screen. Yeah, and they do the great the 3D movie thing where they're like the character in the movie has to put the 3D glasses on, and that's how you know when to put yours on. And her glasses even just said, like, they hand them to her like they're these special things that she can see things in the dream with. Then they hand them to her, and they're just the red and blue glasses that even clearly just say 3D on the side.
Yep.
Like, so cheesy.
Didn't even hide it, dude. It's just,
Yeah. Well, and she even says, though, she says something about, these are just 3D glasses. And he's like, oh, but in the dream, they can be anything.
Okay.
Anything you want, and it's supposed to be like, and I was kind of laughing about it because it's the Inception thing. They give it to her as like her anchor, so she remembers she's in the dream, right? Yeah. And that's what it's supposed to be. So it's kind of like her talisman.
Yep.
Well,
there's also like they get back and it's Maggie and the Kung Fu girl, and they get back, and then Yaphet Kotto shows back up, and they start telling him about it, and he's just like all in like immediately.
Yeah. Awesome. I knew it. This is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. And they say something to him, and he's like, "Because I can control my dreams." You know. You're like, "All right, cool."
Yeah. Well, both him and Tracy meet Freddy in the dreams and beat him up and escape.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say because he fights Freddy in that dream and ends up pulling like a piece of his sweater off, and then when he wakes up, he's still holding it. So that's how they figure out if they can just grab Freddy and then wake up.
Yep.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
Which is the only time we've gone back to that. Like they did that in the first one, and this is the first time we've gone back to it. Which I think is cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we've done this every time. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, kind of do the same thing with. I mean, not the same thing with Jason, but you just nothing creative happens to Jason.
Yeah.
You know, but every Kreuger death is pretty imaginative.
Yep.
So.
Except for 2, which was just stupid.
Yeah. So Maggie has to go in and pull her dad into the real world so they can kill him. So she does, and they do.
No. Yeah, we are not glazing over that with she does and they do. Dude, she pulls him into the real world, and they lock her and him in this cage thing, and they're just going back and forth, fighting. She gets the glove at some point. Well, and puts it on, and he's kind of like egging her on, like, "Go on, come on, it's in your blood."
He's doing that. He's doing that the whole time. Once he gets pulled into the real world, he keeps doing the whole, "Oh, you're my daughter. Here, take the glove. It's in your blood. We should kill people together. Don't you feel it?"
Yeah.
And
he's like, "I always loved you," and you're like trying to like play on that emotional side, but then like her friends are trying to get into her to help her out, and I can't they cut like a hole in the cage while she's fighting him. She gets control of it.
They're pulling it back, like they're sliding it under the door, and then they're pulling like the cage apart and throwing her knives and stuff.
Somehow she ended up like catapulting that glove into him.
Those ninja stars.
Yeah, dude. The ninja
and that's
stars.
it though. But like all the weapons they're throwing to her are because like they just have all these throwing knives and ninja stars and all sorts of stuff. So like she catapults that glove into him, and that kind of like throws him off balance, and then she just gets all these throwing weapons and just starts whipping them into him, and he's just like doing that thing where he's just getting stuck, like they're all going into him and then into the things behind him. So he's getting stuck to this wall, and as he's starting to like pull himself off, she's the other girl on the outside's finally like, "Here, Maggie, use this," and then throws him a lit stick of dynamite.
It was that pipe bomb.
Yeah, it was the pipe bomb from the beginning, but like the fuse is already going.
I know.
She just throws it like, "Here, this will work," and just throws it to it. So she runs over and just shoves it into Freddy and walks away, and then he explodes, and his face, I'm presumably 3Ds at the camera.
Dude, yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah. And then that is the end of Freddy.
When his head explodes, the 3 little sperms are there, and they just laugh and fly away. I was like, that was great. They're like, "Ah!"
Yep.
And they just fly away. I'm like, what? Huh?
He just got fired.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now they gotta go put something on ZipRecruiter and see if they can find a new.
Freddy's dead. Wow! Right into the credits.
Right.
It's so ridiculous, man.
The credits were awesome too, though.
Yeah,
because the credits were just recapping all 6 movies, kills from all of them, and it was fantastic. And it gave it that epilogue feel. It gave it that end sort of feel. It's a weird epilogue after the trilogy we just watched, but it's not. It's over the top, but not fully out of character anymore. It definitely doesn't have the same spirit, but it's not a complete departure either. And the most impressive part, this movie ends and Freddy's dead.
Yeah, he
like
did.
That's it. Like this really does end this series right now. Like there's some other stuff that comes,
right?
But none of it really. Like it's all offshoot stuff. I guess you could make an argument for Freddy versus Jason, but that's the only one.
Yeah.
Beyond that,
right?
I mean, I think that pretty counts as offshoot stuff as much as
I think
that's what I'm saying.
I was gonna say, offshoot for both of those franchises.
Also,
because that doesn't really fit in with either of.
Well, also, Freddy versus Jason takes place in Springwood, so you could totally put that. Like this could totally happen before Freddy's dead.
Yep, for sure.
Because that's
that
when
could happen in that 10-year period.
Well, because that opens with they've forgotten about Freddy.
Yeah,
and so he has to remind them. That's why he calls Jason around to remind them. Because when he comes around and starts slashing people, they're like, "Oh, it must be Freddy," which doesn't make any sense. But
Freddy must be back.
Yeah, Freddy must be back. Oh no.
Yep.
So then we get in '94, we get Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yep.
So this is
funny.
This was my first time seeing this one at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I think it's an interesting concept. I'm just not sure it played out super. Like, I don't think it's bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't love it either. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just fine.
I wouldn't say I necessarily loved it. I don't. It's probably my second least favorite installment of the 7 of the Robert Englund ones.
Yeah.
You know, there. But that's not saying much because how much I liked all of the other ones.
Yeah.
And the other ones were in that self-contained story. This is definitely its own thing. It definitely breaks the pacing rule
Well, it
that
kind
the
of
rest of
almost
them all
breaks
set up.
everything because it's just it's such a it's so meta.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the thing. Like it's another offshoot. It's its own thing. It doesn't really have to be. It's not really a follow up.
Right.
It's something totally different.
It's the new Nightmare.
Like I said, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
on the pacing
story,
level, it's much slower than anything we've seen to this point.
Yeah.
But it is a really cool concept, and
Yeah.
it is executed effectively.
So the story being that Freddy is actually this primordial evil spirit who gets captured every now and then. You know, he can wreak havoc on the world, except he gets captured by storytellers. So when a story gets made up about him that is fiction, or in the old days it would have been like legends and myths and whatever, right? He's gets inhabited into one of those characters, and he's stuck in that story until that story is forgotten and he's free to roam. In this one, he ended up getting caught as Freddy, so now the movies are over. Now, because Freddy's dead, so now he has the chance to come back into the real world. He has to kill Heather Langenkamp to do that.
Well, because he is sort of like because the primordial evil thing is not Freddy Kreuger, but being trapped in Freddy, he enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you know, like he got attached to that version of fiction of himself, and so he's kind of sticking with that. But in order to stay, I think, like in order to stay contained there and do what he wants to do, he's got to go through the fictional heroine that he never quite.
Yes, that he never. I really like this story. I like this one better than Freddy's Dead, I would say. It's definitely slow. Heather Langenkamp is phenomenal.
She's great.
I'm so happy when she's back.
I know, me too.
So I think she's enough for me to keep it like it is slow. And you know, I was noticing it almost plays more like kind of a haunted house movie than it does like, you know, a nightmare slasher.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not a slasher.
Oh, right,
like,
yeah.
To that sense, and they do a real good job of sort of making it like a quasi psychological thriller type thing too, because they really play up the, you know, is she just crazy? She's got all this, you know, past mental stuff, and
she keeps getting the phone calls.
Like is she just being driven nuts, or what's actually going on?
Is there a stalker?
They
is
think
it
that's
more?
a stalker fan that might be messing with her.
But yeah, I really like this one. Also, my main.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was gonna say we get cool '90s trench coat Freddy Kreuger.
I hate the Freddy Kreuger in this one.
He looks so different. Like they changed his look for this. Like
his glove is bad, I think.
And he didn't look like he wasn't like burned like Freddy was. He looked like a demon in this.
Yeah. And I think it made him look. I kept thinking he looked like an alien from Star Trek.
Which is probably fair.
Yeah.
I'm not commenting one way or the other on specifically the look they landed on, but I'm glad that it was different. Like, I'm glad that it set itself apart rather than just looking like Robert Englund from the movies.
I'm fine with that. I think they could have done better. So, for example, in... I'll come back and complain about the glove. For example, with the demon thing, like, they were trying to make him look more like a demon, less like a burn victim. In Freddy versus Jason, he kind of had this escalating thing where, like, sometimes he would appear more demonic than like burn victim, but he still looked like Freddy.
Yeah,
you know, and he definitely, like, he would get kind of like pointed ears, and, you know, his features would be sharper. He didn't look like, that looks like a Cardassian off of, you know,
a Cardassian,
Deep Space Nine, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I just kept getting that feel from the New Nightmare Freddy.
Took me half a beat to realize you didn't say Kardashian.
I also Cardassian.
Yes, I also really hated his glove. So in this one, it's like these bone fingertips, and they've got like the claws are really curved and arched.
Yeah.
And there's a thumb claw, and it doesn't look. It looks floppy because they're so curved. It makes them look floppy and rubber, and it doesn't look.
Well, I say
threatening at all.
I won't argue that they couldn't have done better with the look. Like, I fully agree with all your points there. I just think, like, to me, it made it stand out as a demon who was trying to be Freddy instead of just being like real Freddy pulled into the real world. You know what I mean?
You hear that? All you demons who listen to this, John thinks you all have bad taste.
What?
I got kids, man. Calm that down.
I also this movie also constantly disappoints me because the Freddy demon is coming after her son a lot, and for most of the movie he's got this stuffed dinosaur Rex that protects him in the dreams, and you just know that kid is dreaming about Rex turning into a real dinosaur, and this was like the year after Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So we missed out on like some Freddy fighting an actual T-Rex scenes that they definitely could have done. Just saying.
That would have been amazing.
I'd say because they make a comment. For whatever reason, I just thought there was a much longer gap in here.
Yeah.
Like even when Heather Langenkamp,
it feels like something that would have been like 7 years later.
Yeah. Well, even when Heather Langenkamp shows up, it's like, man, she looks really young compared to what I thought, and she only gets prettier with time. You know. But then they make a reference to it being like 10 years after the first movie, and I'm like, no, what? And then I was like, well, because the first one was, it was 84, but this has got to be like 99, maybe, something like that. And I went and looked, and it was 94. I'm like, oh, well, this is really just 10. I cannot believe all of this took place in 10 years.
Within 1 decade.
You know, yeah.
So this is really one. So I won't disagree. There's a lot of it's not a great movie. It's kind of slow.
It's cool though.
This is one where like it's good enough, and I really appreciate the concept of what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I would probably, I'd say the same thing about Freddy's Dead. I appreciate what it was for what it was. It's probably not a good movie, but I appreciate what it was for what it was.
Yeah.
As opposed to 2, where like I can see what you were going for, and I kind of am interested in that idea, but you did it bad and it was a dumb idea. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Why are we doing it?
I liked the returning characters a lot. Like we got to see John Saxon again.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was cool. I liked having Wes Craven as a character.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat. What did like Robert Englund just disappeared in the middle of that movie? And did he ever come back?
No, and I loved that because he goes, he's talking to Heather at the one point, and she's like, "Can I come up and see you?" And he's like, "Oh no, I got some stuff to do today." She's like, "Well, can I come up tomorrow?" And he's like, "Yeah, that'll be fine. Come up tomorrow." And then when she tries to come up, she calls, and he's left that message that is just like, "We had to go out of town. You can leave a message if you want, but we'll be gone sometime." Like, what a weird. You can leave a message if you want, but don't bother because we're not coming back. Like, oh, okay.
What happened there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Robert Englund, you weirdo.
her babysitter was in the first episode of Angel, so points for that.
Oh, for sure.
Nice.
And that hospital is absolutely much to the theme of Nightmare on Elm Street movies. That hospital was unacceptable.
Yes,
like absolutely unacceptable. Like doctors just do whatever they want. They yell at their patients.
Dude,
they have no
insane,
bedside manner whatsoever.
Well, also that doctor kept threatening to take the kid away.
Yeah.
She can't do that.
Yeah. I know that
Yeah.
whole thing was bonkers.
Like for no reason.
And we're just gonna stab you with these needles and inject you with you can't do that to
trick
people.
because they sent that one that was when the kid was with the babysitter, and this one nurse is like, "I'm just gonna give him this," and she steps up to stop her, like, "You can't do that," and then another nurse like sneaks in behind and just jabs the kid.
Right.
Like, no,
That's not a thing.
Well, also the doctor's main concern seemed to be that he may have seen some of her movies. So he may have seen some of the Freddy movies.
That was basically her point for like
from
threatening to take the kid away.
Right.
Was like, has he watched your work?
I was gonna say, it almost feels like that was kind of like a jab at the people who worry about like kids seeing stuff like this, because that doctor was for real like, you didn't let him see one of your movies, did you?
Yeah.
Like, that was like a big deal, right? Like, she made such a huge deal out of that. It was ridiculous.
For sure.
Yeah. Treated her like she was a bad mom because of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We also, when they, we got that total Freddy kill of the babysitter.
Yeah.
Which was very reminiscent of the Tina kill from the first one.
Yeah.
But also done well.
Yeah.
So I was really into that. Also because, full disclosure, I watched these a little out of order, so they redo the Tina kill in the remake, as we've sort of referenced, and it's awful. Mm-hmm. And I had just watched that, and then I watched this, and I'm like, okay. Here we go.
Here's a good version.
Here's a way to homage something awesome by doing something awesome instead of.
Well, this one was cool because we got to see Freddy like standing there, dragging her up the wall.
Yeah.
So, in the first one, it was just Tina rolling up the wall and Rod, who was awake, watching her.
Yep.
Yeah. And this one, for this one. Like
and several normal people were just watching all this happen and freaking out, but they couldn't see Freddy.
Right.
They could only just see her whipping around.
Yeah,
but it was just like this.
The kid could see Freddy, so we got to see
this
him.
real world Freddy kill that everybody kind of got to watch. And then the kid ran away and ended up doing that crossing that super busy highway, which was hilarious because like all these cars are like zooming out of the way for like at no point does traffic actually stop. That kid's in the middle of that road for a solid 5 minutes, and cars are just dodging it but never slowing down.
Because Freddy's giant at one point, and he picks him up with his claw, and he's like bouncing him in front of the cars because Heather's there trying to and he's like bouncing him in front of the cars.
Oh, which was hilarious also because like she runs out into the street to get him, and then looks over and there's this giant tanker like driving right at her, and so instead of like jumping over into the next lane to get away from it, she turns around and just starts running away from it, like straight away as it's barreling towards her. I'm like, that's not gonna work.
You can't outrun it.
Well, also it tries to stop and like slides sideways, and she like duck and covers under the trailer, but there's no wreck, nothing happened. So apparently after it slid sideways, that truck driver just got it back and kept driving.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
On with my day.
Which was on par with the rest of that scene because
and the rest of traffic was just like oh, okay, he's got it, cool.
Got to get back to work.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, that's LA, dude. They're city drivers.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they're used to that. Stuff happens every day.
This is traffic.
Every day they drive to work, and there's just kids trying to cross the street, and tankers jackknifing and then straightening back out. It's they're used to it.
Yeah.
Every day people hitchhike cross country to get movies about themselves stopped from being made, but when we do it, it's like we're stuck in a cartoon.
Heck yeah.
So then 2010.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do we need to recap the end of New Nightmare because it was kind of.
What do you got?
It seemed very. I felt like it was supposed to be like a finale of sorts, but like I feel like I already got my Freddy finale, so I wasn't sure what to take away from it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I enjoyed the concept of that movie. I enjoyed the execution of that movie.
Yeah.
When it got to the end and then the end happened, like I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have any resolve. I didn't really. There was no. I don't know. It was just kind of like I don't know how I wanted it to end. Just when it ended, I'm like, oh, that was just sort of a normal Freddy ending.
Yeah, she kind of goes into...
And then now it's just over, I guess.
Yeah, so he's got the kid, and she has to chase him into the dream world and rescue him and shut him away in a oven. And there's some allusions to Hansel and Gretel that aren't super great. But they totally do the thing. It's like this demon abode. It's kind of generic. I feel like, there's like fire and some stone pillars, and I don't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, because I feel like the movie was really high concept.
Yeah.
Until it got to the end, and then they just plugged in a normal ending.
Yeah.
From the rest of the franchise. Yeah. Like the whole movie's so different from the franchise, and then it gets to the end, and it's like, here's how they all end.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's over.
Here's how they all end.
Well, and it ends with her reading the script for the movie to the kid.
Oh yeah.
So like I feel like that's the we're right. Look, we never left our own butts.
Yeah.
We're still up here.
Now, at the same time, that like we're witnessing Wes Craven, probably not invent, but like semi-perfect meta through this entire movie,
right?
And then 2 years after this is when he pops out Scream,
right?
Which changes the game drastically also.
Yeah.
So I felt some lead in to that, you know, not from a direct story, but from a style sense.
For sure.
So I dug the journey though. Just felt underwhelmed at the very last minute.
Yeah. Yep. I enjoy that movie quite a bit. I do not enjoy the 2010 remake.
And why would you?
So I have to say right off the bat, I for the longest time I thought that I haven't been able to nail down my feelings on it, and I feel like I tried to defend it a lot, and I would say things like, I really enjoy Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy. Watching it this time, I think I've finally come to nail down that I don't. There's nothing good about this movie. I just like Jackie Earle Haley, so I really want to like his Freddy.
You really want to like it? Yeah, I can see that.
I really enjoy Jackie Earle Haley as a person. His voice is fun. It's fun listening to Freddy sound like Rorschach.
Yeah.
That
threw me a little. Like, yeah. I don't know that I would have changed it. It was a good Freddy voice. There was just several times where, like, he would say something threatening and all I heard was Rorschach. And especially going through this, because I did the same thing. The first time I watched this, I remember enjoying it. Yeah. I did the same thing with the Friday the 13th remake also. Like, I watched it and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. And then I watched it again several years later. I'm like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
It's also super like when we watch these things like with an eye for the critique so we can talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's totally different when it's just like, I paid $10, I got some popcorn, I got a soda.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to make jokes about this thing because John's sitting right next to me.
Yep.
You know, like it's a different experience.
Yeah.
I didn't go through like all the franchises before the remakes came out.
Right.
So like watching it right now as an aftermath to a bunch of stuff I really enjoy, and then watching this, you're like, this doesn't compete.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing to note, a big takeaway here. Like, when you put this up against the other movies, it really reveals just how not good this one is.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Yeah.
And since this was the last movie we watched out of, this whole marathon we just did of all these other movies.
Yeah.
It just was not the great way to end it all.
That's what I was about to say. Like he would say stuff and it would sound threatening, except all I could hear is Rorschach, and then all I'm thinking is, I wish I was watching a better movie.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about this movie is done way better in that other one.
Yeah. So this basically just rides out the story of the first one, and it's so obvious that they weren't trying or putting any thought into it. They were just like, well, what'd the first one do? Have a blonde girl have a blonde girl die first? We'll have a blonde girl die first. Nancy can figure out. I don't know. It did everything bad.
Yeah.
It's interesting too that like it's sort of a remake. But, like, Nancy is the only character that is still there, like, but only a name.
Right.
Because she's not really the same-ish. Like, all the other characters have different names than the characters from the other movie. And, like, we've talked about, like, the Tina kill for the other girl, where they definitely did the same sort of thing.
Yeah. They do the Tina kill, except it's terrible. And then Jesse has the same story arc as Rod did, where he gets blamed for it and runs away and gets thrown in jail.
Yes.
But then they kill him, and it is somehow lamer than just it's air hanging him,
Yeah.
Well, so it's dumb because they're not together. So like in the first one, like all the main characters are all there.
Yeah.
And they hear Tina getting murdered upstairs because she's screaming her head off, and Rod's trapped in the room with her, right? And then he jumps out the window, and so there's somebody there to call the cops. In this one, like, it's just Chris and Jesse.
Yeah.
So it's just Chris and Jesse because Chris's mom went out of town, so they're the only ones in the house. Jesse watches her get murdered and gets like some blood splashed on him, and then he goes running down the street, and then he immediately runs over to Nancy. And even though he's been the one that's like, this is all crazy. You just, you're traumatized because you saw Kellen Lutz die. Like now he's convinced, so he runs over to Nancy, covered in blood, and is like, Freddy's real if you die in your dream. And he explains the plot to her, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then he runs out and gets super arrested. Like, there was nobody to call the cops. There was nobody like, I mean, he just ran down the street, like where did the cops come from? Why is he the one that gets to run and give the plot rundown? And how unimaginatively blatant is it just for him to show up and be like, Freddy's real. If you die in your dreams, you die.
Yeah.
You die for real. Oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
This movie also destroys the pacing concept.
Definitely.
It starts off with a really cool death when Kellen Lutz dies. Like, they're in this diner basically, and Freddy gets him and cuts his throat. But in the real world, all is it Nancy who's watching him, or is it Chris?
Both.
Both.
They're
Okay.
Because Nancy works at the diner, and Chris came to see him.
Okay. So all they can see in real life is like he basically takes this giant knife and stabs himself in the neck and like just kind of totally cuts across. And the effects are well done, and it's creepy and gory, and you're set up nicely. But then you get those two rip-offs of the first one that neither of those deaths work, and then you just get nothing for like an hour.
Right.
And
And then the other thing it does too is, like we talked about, how in all the other movies they did a pretty good job of making all of the kids likable always.
Yep.
And in this movie, they're all terrible, awful people that you just want to like watch die, and we don't even get good payoff for that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just terrible. They turn the whole thing into like the broody, just total jerk type teenagers, and because that's what we do now in the 2010s, and it was just awful, man. It was so bad. And man, there's so many things. So they definitely wanted this one to be like a serious movie, right? So that like, even though this Freddy does throw out some of the classic Freddy one-liners, he doesn't do it the same. He is never really comedic or being funny or like being enjoyable at all. Like, you're not ever rooting for this Freddy, right? Like, you kind of sometimes root for Freddy and the old ones because you want to watch crazy kills.
And he is a weird dream demon stand-up comedian murdering people. You know, like, he is putting a bunch of panache into this. Whereas, and I also like Jackie Earle Haley, and I respect what he was trying to do with the character, but the one-liners have no place in that. And all they do is borrow a bunch of old classic Freddy one-liners and then misapply them.
They use the wet dream one.
But they don't make any sense.
I know.
Like in the first one, this is a kid in bed dreaming about a naked girl. It's a water bed. He throws the line out. It's so over the top. It's hilarious, and it fits in the situation. In this one, she's just like walking on a floor, and the floor starts to turn to blood, so she starts sinking in it, and he's like, you want to talk about a wet dream? Like, what?
Yeah.
What,
but his delivery is so different, though. I don't know. But, like, I also don't like his look. They kept the hat. They kept the sweater. We got the claw glove. Cool. You got to have those things. But they really steered way further into the make him look like a burn victim thing in this. And I guess I get it. It's hard to get away from Robert Englund. We talked about that. Robert Englund's features and everything about that made that old character. But I don't know. Like this, I didn't really like the look of this Freddy. I also didn't like the fact that it was basically all accomplished with CG. And, because he's got like a big hole in the side of his face now. And, this whole movie uses a lot of CG. But like when a main character in the movie is very, very reliant on CG, I don't usually like that, especially since this is 2010 CG and it really stands out now. Like, here we are 10 years later and it already stands out. Like it stands out as old, not good CG. So we've got this like awful looking hole in the side of his face, which never looks quite good. And like, I don't know, man,
like the old Freddy looked horrifying and acted like a cartoon. And this one acted horrifying and looked like a cartoon.
Yes, absolutely. Looked like an animated character, and not even like it looked bland, and nothing about it really stands out. Or like, I hated the look.
And they went back, like they tried to do so many homages to the first one or the first series, like I said, with the one-liners, with the scenes, the kills were reminiscent. They even did they did that scene with the hand coming up out of the tub and everything. But like they clearly just did that because they wanted to put it on the poster or the preview or whatever, because that scene was pointless, meaningless, went nowhere.
And meaningless, and
didn't even do anything.
It was there for half a second, and then it was gone,
Yeah.
and they moved on from it, and it didn't matter at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so dumb.
Like, you could have just filmed that and put it in your trailer and not wasted my time in the movie throwing it in there for nothing. And then the biggest problem, I think, probably, like you were talking about, every time they would give Freddy some more backstory in the original series, you felt like they were inching closer to it being way too much.
Yep.
Man, this one they dove headfirst into
into it. Well, it's modern day Hollywood's obsession with giving everybody a dumb backstory, we need the full origin story. It's very important for the audience to see an entire origin story for them to like a character. That's how Hollywood thinks.
Yep.
And the other thing they did is they steered full on into the child molester thing. Like, he wasn't the Springwood slasher in this. He wasn't. He was just some dude who worked at a preschool who happened to be a pedophile.
Yep.
Right.
And that's how all the kids were connected to him this time. They were all victims of this pedophile at this preschool.
And when they told on him, the parents killed him.
Yes.
So he's
yes.
back for
And so the
revenge.
kids all
he's back
repressed
for the
their
revenge
memories.
on the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They also do that bit in the middle where the main kid or the main male Quentin, I can't remember his name. He gets caught in this dream world and he's watching Freddy's memory for some reason, and they do this, the bit where they make it look like he was innocent. And so he comes out of the dream and is super mad at the parents because they went and killed this innocent guy or whatever. And they're full on, like, they're playing Freddy as this sympathetic character.
Yep.
Like, they're trying to get you on his side.
Yep.
And then, like, the swerve is, no, he actually was all these terrible things. And also the terrible things are I don't know.
Let me complain about this a little more, because that really bugged. So one of the things, because this goes back into also when I would defend it, for the first several years, the last 2011, the last 10 years.
Yeah.
The last 10 years now.
That's crazy. This is 10 years old already.
Yeah.
It feels like it just came out. But
So I remember watching that, and when they went, I remember watching it, and when they went into the whole, like, oh, he's, is an innocent man, I remember being like, nope, no, he is not an innocent man.
Yeah.
And then when they revealed, like, because then the Nancy and Quentin go back to the school and they go down and find his cave with all the kiddie porn of them that he had taken, apparently. I was like, oh, they're like, oh, he really was a pedophile. I was like, okay, good. So, like, I remember being like, oh, I like that they did this twist and then twisted back, and so I would always defend that kind of aspect of it. Except watching it this time doesn't work at all.
Doesn't.
It's bad.
It's
Because
terrible.
that kid wakes up from that dream, like he has the dream, sees Freddy like get chased, and the trick is, so in the first one, they had captured Freddy, they'd arrested him, they put him on trial, he got off because of a technicality, so then they hunted him down and killed him. This one, when the kids came, the parents didn't want the kids to have to testify and be known as these kids that were molested, and didn't want them to have to go through all that, so they just go and lynch Freddy, essentially, and burn him with no trial and no cops or anything. So this kid comes out of this dream that Freddy had shown him of them burning him, and he is instantly just like, you burned an innocent man. Like, even in the dream, there's not really like anything where Freddy is like, I mean, Freddy's screaming, I didn't do it, but like,
there's no proof.
There's no reason for this dream to lead him necessarily to believe that it wasn't real. And so he goes in and he starts yelling at his dad. He's like, you burned an innocent man. Now he's trying to get revenge on us. And we were kids. We would have said anything. And how did you know? Did you ever find his rape dungeon, whatever? You know? And I'm like, hold on. First of all, your kids, you would have said anything. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What is that? Like, what do you mean? Like, hold on. Why are you all of a sudden assuming that you were lying about this? What is happening here? I don't understand. Like, why would this be not a thing? Why would you even think that? So that's dumb. Then also the dad, he's like, did you ever find his dungeon? And the dad's like, no. And then they immediately go, and it's the only place it could have possibly been. Like, did they even look? because Quentin and Nancy go down and into the, because he lived in the basement of this preschool, and they go down and there's blatantly like a board pushed up against the wall that they move, where there's like a door, not even like a secret door or a hole in the wall. There's just a door that they push aside, and then his little pedophile dungeon is under there.
Yeah.
So like one, that's a thing. Like, how did you not find that?
Right.
A. And two, all right. So this is 2010. So, and these kids are all, what, like 16? I mean, they're not graduating yet. So they're like, 17 at the oldest.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That means this happened in the 90s. Preschools didn't have weird gardeners who lived in the basement in the 90s because the 70s and 80s had happened. So we knew they were pedophiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Like, that's just not a thing that happened in the 90s, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Who's that guy over there in the corner? Oh, that's just Fred. He's our gardener. He lives in the basement. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
My kid doesn't go to the school anymore.
He loves the kids.
Yeah.
He's also,
so we keep him around.
Yeah, he takes all his breaks during recess.
Yeah.
And some other breaks, oddly, where he just likes to hang out with the kids. So we let him take him down into his basement.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah. No,
Like,
my kid doesn't go to the school anymore.
Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This movie sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what else to say. Those are all my problems with it, really. I don't know. They just did that thing. Let's make it serious and moody and just go like, let's really make people hate Freddy. And they just did all this stuff. And you totally lost the heart of these movies in doing so. I don't know. You got away from it too far. You went too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I'm totally fine with let's make it serious, because the first one was made to be pretty scary. He wasn't goofy in the first one. He had some lines. He had some good lines, but he wasn't like.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he wasn't a cartoon character. Yeah, in the first one.
But you're absolutely right about you guys lost the heart of it. You guys, have you even seen any of the other
missed the
movies?
point.
Well,
You missed the point.
and you're not like. I assume they make everything hoping it'll be super successful and they'll make sequels. Where are you taking this franchise?
Yeah.
Because the first series, it's weird enough if you step back and think about it, because at no point are you necessarily rooting for Freddy, but Freddy also evolves into this cartoony one-liner machine. You enjoy seeing him work his magic. That's why you keep coming back for more of these movies. So it's really easy for you to not at all at any point think about the fact that you're watching a former child murderer turned demon guy here.
Yeah.
This one, they are just overloading you with the molestation stuff.
Yes.
And what are you doing with number 2 here?
Yeah. Right.
Where are you going with that?
Exactly.
And he's got, the first one made perfect sense and was awesome, that his evil motivation was to come back and get revenge on the people who killed him by killing their children.
Right.
That's terrifying. Mm-hmm. This one, his evil motivation was to come back and force his favorite victim into eternal sleep so she could continue to be his victim forever. Gross.
Yeah.
Everything about this movie makes your skin crawl. Yeah. And in point of fact, like I said, they even take you on that ride in the middle where they're like, we'll make you feel sympathy for Freddy, and then we'll show you what he really is. So what does that do to your audience? Where's the victory there?
Yeah.
If your storytelling works, everybody just feels really icky and doesn't want to talk about your movie ever or see it again or come back for a sequel. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
The 4 was awesome.
Let's not dwell.
4 was awesome. 3 was awesome. 4 was awesome.
Because as bad as that was, this whole franchise was awesome.
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
And
so good.
And I come back to point out what I said last week about I think this being the strongest series. I think it's got the most consistency. It tells the most overarching story. All the stories are connected, at least a little bit. I mean, the Fridays, they're just kind of connected by Jason. You know,
Yeah.
You got the Tommy Jarvis.
I was gonna say they had the
but-
Tommy Jarvis little trilogy there in the middle,
Yeah.
similar, but but still not as story driven as these movies are.
Yeah.
That was like reoccurring bits, but pieces. But
also one of those is one of the worst movies.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And you know the Halloween movies too, like they're fantastic, and we talked about how much we love those, but even those, like, when they went off the rails, they went off the rails.
The best ones are great.
Yeah,
but that one has a lot of stinkers.
Yep. Exactly.
Because two is not very good. 3 is something else. 4 is great. 5 is not very good. 6 is trash.
Yeah.
I
feel like I like the overall Michael Myers mythos a little more, maybe, but the series is not as strong overall.
Exactly.
I think the highs are a little higher, but the lows are way lower. You know?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And there's nowhere near as much consistency.
Well, we do have a format to stick to with the Freakeasy.
No, that got broken last week.
Yeah, you threw him out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing them
We
back.
don't have to do that anymore.
If
you're bringing it back, that's fine.
No, I have that. I have that power.
Yep.
So, overall, favorite. What was your favorite movie?
I think I'm gonna go with Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 is so good and so strong, but man, I don't know. There's just something so fun and so special about Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
That I think it takes the top spot for me. But they are both right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
I gotta go 4.
4?
I gotta go Dream Master. Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly, I put 6 real high on my list.
Really?
Yeah, like it's nowhere near as good as several of these, but like I was smiling for an hour straight.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna argue that.
But it just, I mean, it can't compete with an actual solid movie that also has those high points. You know, and man, I love Rennie Harlan.
So the original is my favorite.
The original?
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
I love it so much.
Yeah, I can totally get behind that.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's, you know, I love Dream Warriors. Like I said, I like Dream Master better than Dream Warriors. I don't know that the first one is better than those. I enjoy the tone a bit more, and I like Freddy better before he gets quite so goofy.
Yeah.
You know, even in 3 and 4 where he's not just full on a Looney Tune.
Yeah.
I prefer the first Freddy.
Oh, for sure.
And the first tone.
Well, and the beauty of it is, I mean, we just watched 8 movies, and there's only 2 definitively wrong answers.
Right. So, who was your favorite character?
Alice.
Yeah.
Man, by far Alice this time. And like, it's always been Nancy.
I was gonna say,
me.
yeah, Nancy's way up there, and but I think Alice is probably.
I think like, if I could count New Nightmare in, like with Heather Langenkamp and Nancy as one thing, it would be a little stronger. I'd probably still go Alice, but it'd be a little stronger contention.
Yep.
But just counting 1 and 3, I got to go Alice.
I also think I want to give some honorable mention to Tina.
For sure.
She does such a great job at doing the
I was thinking of somebody different.
The Janet Leigh. Like she sucks you into the first 10 minutes of the first one, and then gets totally, like, she is so good at what she does.
And still has one of the best death scenes out of the whole franchise.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like
I thought you were saying Kristen.
Oh,
that's what threw me.
Yeah,
No,
I like your reasoning also.
Yeah. Were there any characters that you couldn't wait to see die?
Everybody in the remake.
The
entire cast of the remake.
I'm down with that.
That's pretty much it.
But let's take, if we take the remake out.
Oh man.
Because
I'm trying to think if there was ever anybody that, like,
well, I can.
I'm really glad when Alice's brother dies.
The guy with the Crenati guy?
The Crenati guy. Look, he is such a... He's so not Christian Slater, and he's got this thing like he's almost like he plays every Christian Slater character, because there are like scenes where he's like Christian Slater from Heathers, and then there's scenes where he's like cool and quippy, like he's in cuffs, and he's bad, and like I don't have any particular malice towards the character. It's not like he's a jerk. It's not like I'm just like, can we just... Okay, good, he's dead.
Yeah. That was gonna be my go-to.
Yeah.
And again, like he's not this awful thing.
Right.
He's just kind of a pud.
Yeah.
But in a series of strong characters, you got to go where. So if I can't go with him, I'd probably go with Yvonne, and she didn't even die.
That's fine.
Yeah.
This is always whether they died or not.
Yeah.
Was there anybody who just wanted to get it?
Like, but she was just the one that was like always combative and always not annoying.
That was the friend in 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one who found Amanda Kreuger's body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to go full Freddy here, but she was a total B word.
Total B word.
Yeah. All right, guys. This is what we come for. Favorite death.
Man, I really had to evaluate these over and over. Yeah. So I've got a few that I really like.
Okay.
The video game one is just like an honorable mention, just because I think it's goofy and over the top. I love the power glove. That's great. Comic book one is a good honorable mention. I could just name all of them because they're all great. I think the marionette death is probably one of my favorites of the whole franchise, because it's so just gross when those tendons rip out of his arms, and then his arms get pulled up and he just gets walked around. Like, that is awesome. So I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna go with that.
Yep. I did want to say one thing mildly positive about the remake. Just two visual things I wanted to bring up that I forgot to. One being the scene where he's tracking her down in like that convenience store, and it's flashing in and out of real world and dream world, and he's like swiping at her, and you can see like stuff like coming off shelves or whatever. Super cool visual. The other one was Nancy's mom's death at the end. Like, I was almost mad at how cool that looked, because Freddy, like in the original one, he does that bit where he just shows up and pulls her through that little tiny window, and it looks super cheesy because it was just a mannequin being yanked through.
Yeah.
In this one, like, he pops out from like a mirror and like stabs through her and then sucks her back into the mirror.
Yeah.
And then she's just gone, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I would probably put that visual in contention, like, high on my list.
Yeah.
I would refuse to give it a title because it came out of that movie, but I didn't want to not mention it in this podcast because it was so cool. But it's not going to be my answer. I'm gonna go with Tina.
Yeah.
I think Tina was fantastic. It set you up. I loved the effects of it. Like, even as choppy as it was, that just made it look that much more terrifying. And they do some really cool stuff throughout the franchise. They do some really goofy stuff that really hits me. In the is super fun, like right up my alley with how goofy they get and stuff like that. But nothing ever stood out to me more than just that chick getting drug across that wall, screaming her head off, and then just like slashes appearing in her. And I mean, like, legit, like, that's messy, and I liked it.
I have to give like an honorable mention to the cockroach kill. It's not my favorite, but it deserves, like, it really makes my skin crawl.
Yeah,
like every part of it.
Oof.
Like when she's in the slime in the roach motel, when she pulls her face off and it's a cockroach head.
Yeah.
Even when Freddy squeezes and like all that goo shoots out when he squeezes the roach motel, like it all just makes the sound, because there's all that like that, like that vermin sound. Oh, it just makes my skin crawl all the way around. And I'm not even like grossed out by bugs or rats or anything, so it's not like it's just that scene. I probably would have said Tina, but since you said Tina, I'm gonna go with Johnny Depp.
Yes, the blood Kano.
The blood
Nice.
Kano.
Yep.
I love when I love when the claws come up and pull him into the bed, and then the blood Kano. But I also love the blood Kano because that's the one where when Nancy's dad shows up, he's like, what'd the coroner say? He's asking one of his men, he's like, what'd the coroner say? And he's like, nothing. He's been in the John puking since he walked in that room. So that's just a great moment. Also, quick little side note, I heard one of the stories about that. Like apparently when they did that because they had built the room that turned for Tina's death.
Yeah.
And so they used it for Johnny Depp's, like that was, they pulled him through the bed and then turned it upside down and dumped the blood through.
Yeah.
Apparently, like, it hit one of the lamps and immediately electrified all the blood. So the guy dumping it got zapped. When all the water came through, it immediately sloshed to one side and twisted the thing. So it threw everybody off except for the camera guy, who was locked into his thing. Everybody else was like trying to hold it, like all the weight of the water shifted to one side. So it's like really this, like the backstory is like, man, that scene almost killed several people.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
Oh my god.
But they got the shot.
Well, that's what they say. Like, almost killed all these people, and this happened, and it spun crazy, and a couple people were thrown off. But everybody was fine, and we got the shot. So,
Yep. Guerrilla movie making, man.
Yeah, dude.
It matters.
Oh man, that's so cool.
so that's fun. So, I have 2 bonus rounds.
Bonus
for this
rounds.
one,
Okay.
because it's Halloween. It's the end. We've come through. This is the one we came for. So the first bonus round is, and you may not have an answer for this. Were there any thing in any of the dreams that were like your dream? Your nightmare that you experienced.
So I would say that, okay, there's a couple I could think that would definitely feel very nightmare-ish.
Yeah.
The opening to 6 with the airplane stuff.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. I don't know. I mean, come on. People don't like thinking about plane crashes and stuff like that. So anything involving an airplane's always kind of scary. There are several different, and this is one that you brought up a lot, so I might be stealing yours.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I am. Maybe I'll just let you say it if you're going to do it.
Well, it's totally mine because I did bring it up. There's several times where like the stairs turn to goo and like they're sinking as someone's trying to climb up them, or like the ground turns to goo and they can't run away from Freddy and start sinking.
Type
like I have those dreams.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
You're totally right about that. Like that is just one of those very dream things where like you're in a nightmare and you're trying to get away and all of a sudden you're just not running fast for some reason or you're stuck to something.
Yep.
Like that feels like a real nightmare thing.
Yeah.
And that happens a couple times throughout these movies.
Yes.
So it obviously is something that other people experience enough that they were like, we got to put this in the movie,
Right.
you know, because it
Right.
came up a bunch.
Yep.
I don't know if this counts, but my worst nightmare is watching 2 on a loop. So I guess every
Counted.
second of that.
Counted.
Ghoulies 4. That's my nightmare.
Oh, what about Ghoulies 4? Then Freddy's Revenge.
No. Stop it.
Okay. Final bonus round, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. And you guys had to know this was coming. Favorite Freddy one-liner?
Welcome to prime time. That one.
That's a great one, man.
Yeah.
It's so great. And that's one of those, man, you hear that and you know it's iconic, and it has become, you know what I mean? Like everybody knows that one. You know, that's Freddy's thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, my notes stop at 4.
I love that kill though too.
Oh yeah,
That's another great one. Like that could be on my top list for sure.
How sweet fresh meat. That's always mine.
Oh,
How sweet fresh meat.
yeah, that's good.
Love it. And I love it in and it makes me doubly happy in Freddy vs. Jason when he's got to choose between killing the girl who's like the main girl and oh gosh, the girl from Destiny's Child. What's her name? I know her name. Why am I blanking on her name, man?
Same here.
Kelly Rowland.
There we go.
And he's gonna go kill the main girl, and then he's not, and then he's gonna, and then he turns and he has to go. How sweet. Dark meat.
Oh, yeah, that's
All
right.
in. All
right.
in. All in. I don't know if that's something that would fly with, social norms and PC stuff today, but I'm all in. Say that stuff, Freddy. Say it, don't.
Yeah, I dive right back into Primetime also, but you've already taken that one.
Yeah, it's too good. It's so good.
Like, there was just so many of them for so, like...
They even quoted it at the beginning of 6. Yeah. For no reason.
I mean, there's got to be 47 of them in 3.
Well, I
was gonna say in 5.
5. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And probably like the first half hour of 5. I did like the Power Glove line, except I can't remember exactly how he delivered it, but you did it earlier.
Now you're playing with power, or something like that. Now I'm playing with power.
So yeah, he said something.
The Power Glove.
Yeah. That's barely even a one-liner. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm failing to end this show here, but I don't have one that jumps out at me any more than Primetime.
That's fine.
You know, I just hate copying.
I gotcha.
I'm Freddy Kreuger. That's John's favorite.
Hi, I'm Freddy Kreuger. Good. Yeah, good one.
I did enjoy the delivery quite a bit on if the food doesn't kill you, the service will.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. Well, they're all. I mean, that he delivers them all great.
Yeah,
he delivers them all. Like, that's the one thing, man. Robert Englund figured it out.
Figured what out?
And guys, that's gonna bring us to the end of this season's Freakeasies.
Oh yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a happy and safe Halloween. I didn't think of a sleep tight, don't let the Fred bugs bite one-liner to close it on. I should have thought of something.
Double check all of your candy. I hear there are people putting knife gloves in Snickers bars.
Whoa! Sweet, I want one of those.
Yeah.
I want to be like all the other kids on the playground.
There's something weird about this Snickers mini.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. That house at the end of the block's giving away 4-foot-long Snickers bars.
Oh, perfect, guys. Well, make sure, if you've enjoyed what we do, like, comment, subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. If you are listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, rate us, review us if you can do that. We'll be back next week with our election week special. Normally we don't get too into politics on this show, but this year just seems like we've got to chime in.
Is that what we're doing? Is that really what we're doing? I don't even want to pretend like that's what we're doing. That's not.
Well, it's a real life horror show. We got to do something to add to it.
Oh man! Thank you guys for joining us on the Freak Easy. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Happy Halloween.
Happy
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of The Geek Easy Podcast.